segment of FSU Weather, where we're going to give you some live coverage of a squall line that is just west of our viewing region in the Louisiana and Mississippi border. It's actually currently about to enter the state of Mississippi. We have seen a very strong line of storms start to develop today and have been causing a lot of tornado warnings throughout most of the Louisiana and Arkansas region. And in fact, we see this large yellow boxed region. That's tornado watches that have been issued across multiple states, including Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, even stretching in close to Tennessee. So this strong line of storms today has been regarded as a danger for straight line winds as well as embedded tornadoes. In fact, you see these red boxes. They all are marking possible tornadoes, although they're all tornado signatures. Not any of them are confirmed at the moment. But they are all, of course, on the dangerous side, delivering a possibility of tornado threats. And if you see these orange boxes, they also contain a lot of strong winds that are actually pressing in to parts of our northern Arkansas region, including Lake Providence. You guys are about to see this cluster of strong storms that are producing all these tornado warnings. We also see a lot of regions north of I-20, including Monroe, actually. You guys just dealt with a lot of strong storms that are going to quickly make their way east, so you guys are almost out of the clear yet. Not yet, though. We're seeing these strong storms, though, a lot of rotation that are embedded in this line of storms. In fact, we look over at Mirage, and we have a decent amount of rotation right here just west of the town. So, in fact, we do have at least a decently strong line of storms, and even if there isn't a tornado embedded in these warned storms, we still have a lot of straight line winds that will possibly produce damage as trees are knocked down. So of course, if you are in your home and you're just ahead of this line of storms, definitely make your way into a interior room of your home, and of course take shelter, especially if you're under a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning. Because, of course, again, this strong system is producing a lot of wind associated with this squall line. And in fact, if you're anywhere close to our viewing area in Tallahassee, we can see that there's a lot of wind going on at the moment here in Tallahassee and in the Big Bend region. That's associated with this system that is far off to our west, but yet it's already producing the strong winds, and the atmosphere is so dynamic that even we are starting to feel some of the effects of the system as it's making its way east. But just ahead of this squall line, it is very strong winds and quite severe, in fact. So that's why we see all these orange boxes that are signaling severe thunderstorm warnings. And again, that cluster up to the north in that North Arkansas region, again, if you are anywhere east of Monroe and north of I-20, we suggest that you get indoors and get inside interior room of your home so that you're away from windows and you're on the first floor, so that in case something does happen, you are in the best possible situation. Because of course, this system, while it may not be the best for those long-lasting supercell tornadoes that people talk about on the news, and maybe you saw in like December with the Mayfield tornado, but these cells are still strong enough to produce tornadoes and straight-line winds that can damage your home, and we, of course, want to see everybody stay safe through this event. So I'll toss things over to Robert, who will talk a little more in-depthly about this cluster of storms in North Arkansas.
Right, thank you, Chandler. We are watching right now this region right here for our major tornado potential. It seems like we're going right now into Monroe, Bastrop, Rayville, and Mangum. All of you right now are under the gun for a potential tornado. And really the thing is that you need to remember with this setup is some of these tornadoes can develop very quickly. These are what we like to call spin-up tornadoes from a system that is a line. Like Chandler said, these are not necessarily your long-tracked supercell tornadoes that people come to know as your classic tornado, but these can spin up very quickly. So if you were anywhere along this line, anywhere from the north end up in Arkansas all the way down through to Lake Charles in Louisiana, you need to be watching this line for spin-up tornadoes, because we've seen earlier there were tornado warnings at every point really along this line. So we really can't discount the potential for a tornado anywhere in there. But right now, our main area of concern is this up here that we're watching. It's going to be for these 2 tornado warnings that are going to expire at around 2:45. All my times here are in Eastern because we're broadcasting from our studios here in Tallahassee, Florida. These are going to be for Franklin and Morehouse counties, and then this one's also going to be for Ashley and Morehouse, parishes, for those of you in Louisiana. That's where you are. But right now, under the gun is going to be Delhi, Rayville, Epps, Mangum. Anywhere in there, you need to be taking your tornado precautions. That means going to that lowest level interior room, a room that is away from outside walls and windows, a room that is preferably something like a bathroom that has a lot of extra piping that keeps those walls sturdy. That kind of room that is on the lowest level is best to keep you safe from a tornado. Also, if you have a basement or a FEMA-grade tornado shelter, that's your best bet to go. But I know a lot of people from where I'm from in Texas and Louisiana don't have a lot of those, so that's why I want to emphasize that lowest level interior room that you go to. So right now, this is the area that we're watching for this tornado potential. The reason why we're so concerned about this is actually not the highest risk area for tornadoes today. That will be over here into the state of Mississippi, where we have this thing called a moderate risk, or a level 4 risk issued by the National Weather Service's Storm Prediction Center for the chance of strong tornadoes. This is in here, so when these tornadoes move towards the east, or these storms move towards the east, they will acquire an even greater tornadic potential, and that's the main reason we're concerned. And as I just said that, there was a new tornado warning issued in Arkansas for Ashley and Chickasaw counties. So that is going to be until 2:45 p.m. Central Time, and for all of you in there, of course, you're going to need to watch that for continued development. So Hamburg, Portland, Lake Village, Wilmot, maybe even Eudora. It really depends on where this tornado is going to form. I'm going to switch the radar real quickly so we get a little bit of a better coverage, because this is from the Fort Polk radar. So right now we're seeing this area right here going to be close to the Mississippi River, around Greenville, maybe even Arkansas City, but right now the major potential is with this area around Hamburg and Wilmot. So those of you in Ashley County really need to be watching these tornadoes for their continued potential. We're also watching across the line, as Chandler said, a potential for straight line winds. And what that essentially is very strong winds moving in one direction. It's not a rotation like a tornado, but these winds are strong enough that they can cause tornado-like damage. These winds can be in excess of 70, maybe even 80 miles per hour along this line right here. So you're going to need to continue to watch that in the state of Arkansas down to Louisiana, and as this line moves its way east to Mississippi. This is going to be a major concern for us all throughout the day today. Even if you don't have a tornado warning for you, these winds can be damaging to the point that the damage will be close to a tornado. So when you get a warning issued, even if it's not a tornado warning, as I said earlier, these warnings can be issued very quickly. Tornadoes can spin up, but also these damaging wind gusts can be very strong. So even if it's not a tornado warning, if it's a severe thunderstorm warning, I would still highly recommend going to your interior, lowest level room away from outside walls and windows, preferably something like a closet or a bathroom, where you can go, even if it's not a tornado warning, because this is such a dangerous situation. So now I'm going to pass things back to Chandler on the wall to give us a little bit of a big picture setup with what's going on in this situation.
That's right, and as Robert was mentioning, we have this huge cluster of tornado warnings that are all associated with those tight couplets that we see in the squall line as it's making its way towards the Mississippi River. Just looking at the Storm Prediction Center's storm reports, we have over 12 storm reports, all associated with wind damages. Like Robert was mentioning, there is a danger for wind as far as it can produce just as strong of, just as severe of damage as a tornado. In fact, one of the reports is that a tree fell onto a mobile home. Hopefully that family is okay, but that is just another reason why, if you are in one of these towns just east of the squall line, go ahead and get into a safe shelter. If you are in a mobile home, try to go somewhere else. If you know somebody that lives in a one-floor home, maybe just trying to find some place that's a little more secure and safe for you. But again, this system has been producing pretty strong winds, upwards of 50, 60, and 70 miles an hour, and some of these little storm clusters that we keep on seeing pop up. Again, right here, just north of Monroe, again, we have a lot of these stronger bands of rain as they're making their way eastward towards the Mississippi River, we'll continue to see this storm progress. And as it gets later in the day, we have that potential for it to continue to feed on the moisture and warmth to its east. In fact, when you look at the environment in Mississippi, there is a lot of moisture and a lot of warmth. And what that does is it increases the amount of available energy that the storm has so that it can continue to last longer and longer. So as we see the storm progress, it won't die out like some storms that we've seen in the past, maybe a supercell thunderstorm. Those things can last for a little while, but typically they don't last for a long while. But this storm will continue to last for several hours, eventually making its way into the Panhandle and into Big Bend region, where we'll see some severe weather tonight and into tomorrow for the Big Bend region and North Florida in general. But again, for this area right now, we're seeing some stronger, tighter couplets and clusters of tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. And in fact, this will be a dangerous situation for both those currently in Arkansas as well as Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida. So if you're in any of those states and you're closer to the Mississippi region or the Gulf region, definitely go ahead and take some time to prepare, and especially if you are closer to the squall line as it's making its way towards you, definitely go ahead and find a safe place to stay, especially if you're in a vulnerable area such as a mobile home. I'll toss it back over to Robert so that he can continue to highlight just how dangerous this situation is.
Right. What we have today is called a moderate risk issued by the Storm Prediction Center, and that means a level 4 chance of strong or violent tornadoes is possible today. And even if they're not violent, we do have a chance of a regional tornado outbreak. That's the wording the SPC has used here. So if we look throughout this entire area, you can see it's pretty much concentrated on the south here, maybe extending a little bit up into Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana, and maybe even Kentucky there for a little bit. But the main area of risk tonight is going to be along this line, and is going to be from anywhere right now in Louisiana going into the entire state of Mississippi, into Alabama, even parts of North Florida, not including Tallahassee for our biggest risk. And it's also going into parts of Tennessee and Arkansas, including Memphis and Jackson, Tennessee, and Jackson, Mississippi. So that's our area of biggest, most prominent risk. But this risk also includes areas like here in our viewing area with Dothan, Tallahassee, areas like Panama City. So that's going to be a thing we're going to watch later into the night tonight and into tomorrow morning. But for today, the major risk is going to be towards more this area where we have Memphis, we have under the gun being Jackson, including Alexandria, where you have just gone through the line. Even the city of New Orleans, Little Rock, you're going through it right now. So these are major areas. I also want to highlight something where we have the individual risks for storm hazards. What I just showed you is the overall risk that the SPC has given you, the area where you see highest chance of tornadoes, or not just tornadoes, but all storm hazards. But specifically, let's look at the tornado risk. So all of these here, these chances might seem small to you, like a 2% chance of tornadoes. That sounds like, you know, we have a 98% chance of not seeing a tornado. It must be a really good day for us today. Well, consider the fact that at a point, the traditional probability of seeing a tornado is, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's somewhere around 1 in 100 million at least. So if you consider that number, which is incredibly small, and compare that to 2%, it really tells you that we have quite a serious situation going on here for at least that. But now you compare that to 15%, where we have the highest chance of tornadoes here, and you can just see how what we have in store today is probably not a good day for us, for the state of Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, and Louisiana at least, possibly even including parts of Tennessee and going into parts of Kentucky and Florida as well. So that's what we're going to watch today. We also have this thing right here, this black, that's called a hatched risk. What that essentially means is the SPC has identified this area as being potentially most likely of seeing strong tornadoes. This is just a chance of seeing tornadoes. The black is strong tornadoes. So when you see that 15% with that chance of strong tornadoes, really just emphasizes that today could be a potentially hazardous day. But tornadoes, like I said, are not the only threat. We also have the chance of winds, damaging winds, and that gets up to 45% for those of you in parts of Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Alabama. That's our area of biggest risk for those winds. And as I said earlier, winds can be just as damaging as tornadoes. Some of these damaging winds can get up to 60, 70, 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour. And as many of you know, even here in Tallahassee, our viewing area, the winds are already starting to pick up ahead of this front. They're going to get even stronger as these storms move through. So make sure you're securing all your loose items, your tables, your chairs that you know blow away frequently, signs that you have outside, other stuff that you just know is probably not going to survive a 60, 70 mile per hour wind gust and you want to keep it safe, probably best to keep it inside. And of course, if you have any pets outside, now is definitely the time to bring them in. You do not want to keep them outside during a hazardous situation like this. Hail risk today, definitely not the main threat. We could see some pea-size hail, some quarter-size hail, small risk of that for you here over the major risk area. But the main area that we are concerned about today is this wind threat and tornado threat that will do serious damage to those of you in the state of Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, including parts of Louisiana and Arkansas. So I want to talk specifically because we do cover the Tallahassee area about our risk here. This is who we serve here at Florida or FSU Weather. This area right here, we are going to see a chance of some isolated spin-up tornadoes. We also have a chance of some damaging winds, but the hail risk is definitely a little bit lower. So the main risk that we're watching here, particularly as you get towards the west of our viewing area, if you're in Panama City, if you're in Dothan, you have an enhanced and even a moderate risk barely as you get towards Mobile and Pensacola. So those of you in the enhanced and moderate, that's you have a 3 or 4 out of 5 chance of seeing a significant situation going on. That's your risk. These areas can see a strong spin-up tornado. Those of us here in Tallahassee under the slight risk, we also have a chance. This timeline is going to be more like tomorrow morning, but we could still see one. So all of you in the viewing area are going to need to make sure you have your alerts turned on tonight. Have something like a NOAA weather radio that can wake you up, or have a phone that can also have your alerts on. Have the TV on at a low volume. Do whatever you can just to make sure you can get up when these storms get here very early in the morning, because you don't want to be caught by a tornado while you're sleeping, because you need to make sure that you can get yourself, your friends and your family and your pets to a safe space in enough time where you will be safe. But that also applies to the rest of you. All of you in this moderate risk and enhanced risk are going to want to make sure that you also have your alerts turned on, even if it's during the day today. You could never know. You could be caught driving. You're going to want to know where you are, and you're going to want to know that you have alerts on so you can take cover and take shelter whenever these situations do happen. So again, wherever you are, you're going to want to make sure that you have alerts on, and you can take shelter in a sturdy building, not a mobile home, not a car, that has a room that is away from outside walls and windows as soon as possible, not just from tornadoes, but from damaging wind as well. So now I'm going to pass things off to Chandler to give us more of a look at the current situation on the ground.
Thank you, Robert. So right now, we're seeing that line of storms, again, the strongest part of this storm system. Right now it's been warned, tornado warned, and also severe thunderstorm warned, just to the south as well. It is traveling along I-20, about to make its way across the Mississippi River. And so if you are anywhere between Monroe and Jackson, Mississippi, you're about to see this squall line, or you're currently seeing it. So like Robert mentioned, get in those safe places. Do not avoid mobile homes and cars, as those structures won't protect you from straight line winds, let alone a tornado.
I do have an update real quickly. The tornado warning for Morehouse, Richland, Carroll, and Franklin parishes, that is a confirmed tornado on the ground. So we do have a confirmed tornado situation. I'll pass back to Chandler to give us more of that radar update. But I just wanted to emphasize, those of you do have a current confirmed tornado now. This is a very serious threat.
Exactly. So again, if you are in this cluster of storms, or this cluster right here, that is a dangerous situation that we currently are seeing unfold. As this tornado that is currently been confirmed on the ground, we'll get a little bit of a closer look here in a second. It is making its way across in the northeasterly direction, making its way towards the Arkansas border and towards the Mississippi River as it's getting ready to cross into Mississippi, the state of Mississippi. Then we also have right here this this tornado warning. Is this the one you were talking about, Robert?
This is a new one.
Okay, this is a new one. All right, so then we have this other tornado warning that is just to the south of Lake Charles and Jennings. So, of course, if you are at all along I-10, definitely start to keep an eye out for this strong line of storms. It is making its way across the whole entire state of Louisiana and has been a high-impact storm for much of Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas. We've seen several storm reports, all associated with those strong lines of strong winds. And as we start to see these tornadoes develop, we'll see even more danger. But again, so we have this tornado warned storm that has been confirmed as a tornado producing storm. And if you just take a moment, you can see that there's a mixture of reds and greens involved in this radar image. And what that symbolizes is a rotation, a couplet, where we have this spin close to the ground. And typically what that means is that there is a tornado, or at least a possible tornado-producing storm in this box. But according to Robert, we have an actual confirmed tornado in this region. So again, if you're at all in Epps, Delhi, sorry if I slaughtered that. If you're at all along I-20, make sure you're going ahead and getting inside, taking shelter in a sturdy home, or at least going to a community area like a library. But again, if you're between US 370 or 137, excuse me, and north of I-20, go ahead and take shelter, as this system is making its way, and it will be producing the strong line of storms, or strong winds, as well as a confirmed tornado within this region. So again, go ahead and take shelter as it's making its way towards the Mississippi River and into the state of Mississippi. As for those in the state of Mississippi, definitely go ahead and take precaution, as this will continue. We will see more of these tornadoes start to pop up and spin up. They are short-lasting, but they are still very strong, possibly, especially once you combine that with the strong line of straight-line winds associated with the squall line in general. So even if we don't see necessarily the tornado itself producing a lot of damage, even just surrounding it, there's a lot of those strong winds. But again, it's a dangerous situation. I'll hand things off to Robert so he can elaborate a little more on this particular scenario.
Right, so we are watching this thunderstorm right here. It is our tornado producer. We do have a confirmed tornado on the ground, and I'm going to specifically talk about those of you along US Route 425. We do have an area right around Rayville and Mangum. This area is what we're looking at for our main area of circulation. You can see we have these reds and greens right next to each other, and what that means is we have inbound and outbound winds. These are just winds going in two directions right next to each other, and when we have two different directions, you know what that means is you have winds going this way and you have winds going this way right next to each other. Means you have a circulation going right there. So that's what we're watching right around 425 and I-20. And that's moving off towards the north-northeast. So those of you in Epps and Delhi, that's right along, going to be close to the Mississippi River now. You really need to be taking your tornado precautions, going to that lowest level interior room, away from outside walls and windows, because this tornado is going to be an area of concern. We do have a second circulation near Oak Ridge right here. This could be a second tornado. This could just be an area of circulation that's trying to wrap up here. We don't actually, we're not confirmed as to what's going on there, but this is something we're concerned about. So if you are north of Rayville, near Lake Providence, southwest of Lake Providence, anywhere on Forest and Epps, that is something we are also watching as an area that could have a spin-up tornado. We also have, and I don't want to get too pedantic here, but around US 165, we have another circulation southwest of Wilmot. That's also tornado warned. And this is near Bonita, Wilmot, and it's going to be potentially, if this continues going, near Eudora. All of you there need to be taking your tornado precautions. If you are outside right now, you need to be going indoors. You need to be going away from outside walls and windows. You need to be going away outside. If you're in a mobile home, go to a sturdy structure, one that has a brick construction, one that can survive a tornado, and that's what you need to be doing there. This entire line right here is producing tornadoes. That is something we are watching. And as it makes its way into the more favorable environment in Mississippi, this is going to be concerning. So those of you in Greenville, Rolling Fork, and Mound Bayou, that is going to be our next concern for tornado development. Greenville 209, and this is in Central Time. These are the correct times here. Greenville is 209, Rolling Fork is 225, and Mound Bayou is 236. So all of you along this line right here need to be ready to take your tornado precautions. If you're outside, take those activities indoors. Today is not the day to be outside and caught by one of these storms, particularly these tornado and high wind producers. And I finally want to talk with this northern storm right here, Chrisette and Greenville, and east of Cressette, this tornado warning right here, southeast of Monticello, that is going to be another chance that we have here. Circulation is not quite as strong. It's going to be probably right here, just northeast of Cressette, but that's going to be another thing. We do see these quick spin-up tornadoes. So even if it doesn't look like it's a major tornado producer right now, it could become one very quickly. So yeah, that's what we're watching right there. That area of circulation is a major concern for us as we're getting into this favorable tornado environment. I want to emphasize, if you are driving right now, if you're on the road near any of these tornado producers, you need to be getting indoors now. You need to be getting away from your outside walls and windows, getting away from being in a car, a mobile home, get to that sturdy construction, away from those outside walls and windows on that lowest level. And even if you're near any of these severe thunderstorm warnings, east of Alexandria, along the Mississippi River corridor, this is going to be a major wind threat for you as well. So all of you along that area right here are going to see some strong winds in excess of 60 and 70 miles per hour that will honestly feel like a tornado to you. So you really need to be taking precautions for there as well. And all of you along this line are going to see a chance for even its quick spin-up tornado as well. So just take all of these warnings seriously. Today is not the day to say, well, this is not near me. I'm over near Jackson. I'm fine. I don't need to take this seriously. You really need to do so. These storms are going to make it to your way very soon, and anyone along this line, even if it's a severe thunderstorm warning, don't take that too lightly. You can not only see a spin-up tornado, but even these severe thunderstorm wind gusts are just about as strong as tornado. So let's take a look at that tornado warning close to Lake Charles down here. And that just got issued about 10 minutes ago. So this is one of our newer tornado warnings that we have here. It's going to be southeast of Lake Charles, and it's going to be straddling Cameron Parish here. It's going to be just a little bit southeast of Jennings. This is where we're looking right here, and it's probably right on the border of Cameron Parish. We're looking for that area of tornado circulation. That's going to be making its way towards the northeast a little bit. This whole line is moving a little bit towards the northeast. So Jennings on I-10, Kaplan, maybe Kaplan, we'll see if it holds up. That's a little bit down the road from you guys. But Jennings, anywhere east of Cameron and Cameron Parish, anywhere southeast of Lake Charles, southeast of Jennings, all of you need to be, or southwest of Jennings, southeast of Lake Charles, excuse me. I got my directions mixed up there. That's going to be the area where we're watching for that tornado warning. And Central Time, it's going to be 2:30. So right now, this time up here is going to be, because we're broadcasting for our studios in Tallahassee, that's Eastern. So that right up there is going to be 2:10 Central Time. So this tornado warning is going to be for the next 20 minutes. I think we just got a new tornado warning issued on that one as well. So they probably extended that as well. That's what that looks like, at least to me. That's one thing we're concerned about, is that these storms can really start to wrap up and really get stronger in basically one radar frame. It can get very quickly here. So even if you aren't under a tornado warning right now, you could see one very quickly. Like I said, anywhere along this line, just don't take this too lightly. Take all the precautions you can. Go indoors as soon as possible. So yeah, we have this tornado warning right here. This tornado watch is going to be effective until 7 Central Time. We're going to possibly see some downstream tornado watches issued as this day continues. But right here is another area of concern down northeast of Cameron. That's going to continue to make its way here. And as we look towards these severe thunderstorm warnings, we do have some major wind gusts going on here. If you can see these darker greens right ahead of these lighter greens, that's going to be your inbound thunderstorm wind gusts. These are going to be pretty strong here, in the order of 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. And it's going to pack a punch, even if you don't have a tornado going on right now. That's going to be an area you're going to want to watch. Natchez, going to be Quebec, all of you along the Mississippi River, Tallulah and Mound, that's going to be towards you over the next hour. Going to be 2:15 for Quebec, 2:20 for Natchez, and 2:24 for Tallulah. That's going to be our next few cities that are going to be under the gun from this line of thunderstorms. And as I said, we sort of have a multifaceted severe weather setup today. We have the high winds, we have the tornadoes. Some of these tornadoes could be strong, and very tiny risk of hail. That's not our major concern today. But up here, probably best to go back and revisit these tornado warnings, because this seems to be our major for tornado warnings. And we do actually have, looks like some of these couplets are strengthening. So if we look northeast of Cressette, that's one we're watching right now. West of Portland, that's an area that I'm concerned about. Southwest of Portland, southeast of Cressette, that's another area I'm concerned about. And if you really split the difference between those two, there's another one in there. So we have roughly 3 areas right here that I'm pretty concerned about for tornadoes. And that's the thing, as I said earlier, these can spin up very quickly, so we're going to try and keep you informed with as much of these as possible. That's the one in the middle that we have highlighted right here. That's starting to wrap up. If you're in Portland, you need to be taking those tornado precautions right now. You need to be going, if you have an underground basement or an underground tornado shelter, that's the best. That's the best way you can go. That's how you can keep your family and your friends and your pets safe the best. But if you don't have that, it's fine. Just go into that interior lowest level room away from outside walls and windows. We can see this other one down here, and we just had a new tornado warning issued. I'll get to that in a second. We're looking right here west of Portland. We do have these 3 areas of circulation. If we could zoom out a little bit so we could see all of these tornado warnings, so I could talk about the ones to the south. We do have an ongoing situation of what looks like several tornadoes could be on the ground. We don't know. I'm not going to say they are, but we do have a chance for that to happen. So all of you need to be taking this seriously. We just treat them as if they're on the ground. When you're in these areas, you need to be taking these precautions very seriously. This new one got issued until, it's going to be roughly an hour from now, because that's 2:13 is the current time in Central Daylight Time. 3:15 is until when this tornado warning lasts. So Lake Providence, you're now under the gun for this tornado warning. This one's going to be back towards Delhi, east of Bastrop, southwest of Lake Providence. That's going to be the area we're most concerned about for this tornado warning. Is this one the same one that was from that confirmed tornado earlier? I'm not exactly sure about that.
I think it is, yes.
Okay. I know that I'm seeing on my system over there, one of them is still confirmed. I'm not sure which one that is. I believe it is this one right here with this circulation crossing I-20. So if you know anyone, if you're not even from this area, you're near, you know friends and family from Monroe, just give them a heads up that there are some strong storms east of Monroe. Those of you in far northeast Louisiana, in Rayville, Epps, Lake Providence, that's the area we're watching right now for these chances of strong tornadoes. And I'm really concerned about this because we're seeing several areas of circulation here, which basically means any of these can drop a tornado very quickly. Just northeast of Rayville, it's pretty much due southeast of Bastrop. Another one southeast of Wilmot. Okay, here we go. We just got a new scan in. That one's definitely strengthening, so I'm very concerned about that. If you are southwest of Lake Providence along US 65, if we could zoom in on that one just due east of Bastrop and try and get some road names closer to that. It's going to be close to the city of Epps. It's going to be right along Louisiana 2. If you're anywhere just west of Pioneer, southwest of Oak Grove, nearby Louisiana 585 or 582, you need to be taking your tornado precautions right now, going inside that lowest level interior room, going away from outside walls. Make sure this room has a sturdy construction. Like I said, bathrooms do provide extra protection because they have all those pipes in the walls. So that's going to give you extra protection from a tornado. Louisiana 2, west of Pioneer, southwest of Oak Grove. This is just really started to wrap up here, gotten really concerning for us. But we are also watching. If you're near Epps, there's one south of this one. It's going to be around Louisiana 585. That's another tornado warning we are watching for as well. And if we could zoom out here just to get a better perspective of the other really 3 or 4 circulations we have going on here. West of Delhi, there's one. That's one we're concerned about. It seems to be like I wouldn't say it's wrapping up. It seems to be sort of stable, and that's honestly a better situation than wrapping up, but still it means that it's here. And I want to clarify, whenever I say wrapping up, I mean that this is tightening or it's getting stronger. I don't mean that it's ending. If we're looking towards the north here, these do look like they are weaker than earlier, so I am feeling a little bit better about these, but I don't want to say that you need to just disregard these at all, because as I said earlier, when we have this line of thunderstorms that produces these quick spin-up tornadoes, they can intensify very quickly. Could we go to a product that is called correlation coefficient? I think that could help us determine here what are our most serious threats. And we actually don't see anything in the way of debris right now. How we use this product here is that this shows basically what is in the sky. Is it close to the size of a raindrop? If it is, it's going to be these pinks and purples right here. That's what we think, that's a good thing. We don't want to see anything different from that. If you do, it's either radar clutter or it could be debris from the ground, because basically you're looking for, okay, is this a thing called a hydrometeor? Is it close to that size? If it is, then we're probably good. We're seeing something that's mostly raindrops here. But if it isn't, if it's like a sign, if it's like a board, whatever, if it's like a sheet of paper, it's going to look differently from that, and it's going to start to pick it up. So we're going to look at this product probably a few times today whenever we see these confirmed tornadoes on the ground, and we're going to see if there's debris being picked up by them, because that will give us a very good clue as to what's going on here. So as you look right now, this really is our main complex of tornadoes. We don't have, I don't think we have, or we do still have that confirmed tornado warning, so I want to correct myself there. We have one right now that is a confirmed tornado warning. The rest of these are just potential, but that means the National Weather Service has seen an area for concern here. They are worried about it. They do think it could put down a tornado at any point right now, so that's why they have these tornado warnings issued, because of this concerning situation. This one's until 2:45. This new one is until 3:15 Central Time, and this one is going to be also until 2:45. So we have this situation going on for the next roughly hour here, and the reason we're so concerned about them is, as I showed you earlier with this sort of risk area the SPC set up, this area is the moderate risk right here. This is our biggest chance of tornadoes. What that means is, as these storms do make their way eastward, they will have a greater chance of strengthening, tightening up, producing more tornadoes. So all of you really need to be watching this right now as it continues to enter this more favorable area of tornado risk. Could we zoom out a little bit, see this whole situation here, because we want to see if we have any new tornado warnings issued or if that one in the south is still ongoing. And it does look like we do have a new one southeast of Alexandria. So we are going to look at this one right here. If we could go to velocity, that's the first thing I like to look at. It's until 2:45. So we have roughly around 30 minutes of lead time on this tornado warning. It's going to be northeast of Bunkie. So that's where we're looking for that tornado potential here. We can see that there's a chance of some circulation right here. That's something I'm concerned about. We could just tighten a little bit of that picture right there. So we can see, I think the thing they're concerned about is this one right here. It's going to be southwest of Marksville, and it's northeast of Cheneyville. And if we could zoom in just a tad bit more, just to see what road names there are here. That's going to be around LA 1, so that's going to be close to, oops, I'm off the screen. That's going to be close to the area around the Mississippi River here. I know if you're from Alexandria, you are fine from this, or I said Mississippi, sorry, the Red River, excuse me. Alexandria, you are fine from this. This is going to be east of the Red River here. But those of you, if you do know family from the Alexandria area, you're not sure where they live, best to give them a heads up. Better safe than sorry on a day like today where something can spin up very quickly. And I want to emphasize that as well. If you know anyone from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, any of these areas where we could see a potential tornado ongoing, if you don't know where they live, it's just better to take that chance and be like, well, I don't know where you live, but here's what's going on. Just take those precautions, because this is a thing that can become very deadly very soon. I want to really make sure that everyone knows what's going on. So I'm going to pass things off to Chandler to talk more about some of these tornado warnings that are ongoing. We do continue to have this very dangerous situation.
Exactly. We have a pretty large system, and it's been kind of dominating the South Mississippi River Valley. And in fact, if we move on and look at kind of the overall setup, we can see some of these warmer temperatures that are ahead of this squall line, producing upwards of 70 to 80 degrees. And so, of course, as the squall line progresses from the Mississippi River into the southeast in parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, we will continue to see it continue to feed on these warmer temperatures. And as such, it will continue to strengthen, at least maintaining the same strength that it is now, producing strong straight line winds as well as some of these rotation couplets that we continue to see embedded in this system. And also, we have some of this moisture, and with that moisture, basically the squall line is feeding off of this instability associated with these high dew points. We have dew points in the 60s and even probably local 70s along the Mississippi River. So again, it's pretty moist and unstable environment. And so as such, this squall line will continue as it gets into Mississippi to strengthen. So that's why we continue to tell people in Jackson upwards towards Memphis in Tennessee and all the way down towards Mobile in Alabama. Everybody along that line needs to prepare for this squall line as it's making its way across the southeast. And on top of the moisture and the warm temperatures, we have the strong winds that are funneled southeast, or from the south and southwest. That's continuing to bring in that moisture and that warmth from the Gulf of Mexico. And it's causing quite a breezy conditions, especially here in Tallahassee, where we've seen nice strong winds in the 20s for quite a while today. But even closer to the squall line, once you get towards New Orleans and such, you're seeing those stronger lines of storms, or stronger winds, excuse me, associated with this line of storms that's going to make its way across the state of Mississippi. But again, it's a pretty dangerous situation and one that we need to look out for, especially along the Mississippi River. And I'll toss things off to Robert so he can take a closer look at some of these tornado-warned storms.
Right, thank you, Chandler. We are looking at these storms now. I know we focused on the north because that's been our major tornado producer, but I will not be surprised if we start seeing this start to pick up, because we do have this active tornado warning just southwest of Lake Arthur and southeast of Lake Charles. That's going to be right here where we're looking for this area of circulation, and I'm very concerned about this. This is a pretty clear circulation here where you see this notch right here. That's where we're seeing these winds start to rotate, and that new scan really shows that it's rotating right there. Honestly, there's several in here that I'm concerned about. That's the one I'm most. This area could form something that, so if you're near the city of Hayes, due west of the city of Lake Arthur, that's something I would also be concerned about. But something I'm also watching is this area down here. It's going to be along the coast, just east of Cameron, southeast of Creole. This is an area that could start to spin up something. It could already be producing something like a water spout off the coast, but this, as it makes its way inland, could have a tornado potential. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do issue a tornado warning on that soon. We'll have to see what the Weather Service thinks about that. But that is our main concern for those of you down there. So all of you east of that, if you're going to be near Lafayette, New Iberia, Opelousas, anywhere in this area along the 45 corridor, this is going to be a potential risk for you going into the future over the next few hours. Baton Rouge, those of you in New Orleans, that's going to be a little bit of a risk later, so you are going to continue to watch this. I know New Orleans, you probably have a little bit of storm fatigue from last week. We had that, unfortunately, that very strong tornado hit those of you in New Orleans, Orleans Parish, St. Tammany Parish, all of you over there, St. Bernard Parish. That is not a concern we have right now, but that could happen later tonight, so we're going to need to continue to watch for that. Right now, just be alert, stay on guard. We are not watching a tornado for you at this moment, but continue to watch. Those of you going to be closer to Alexandria, I'm going to switch the Fort Polk radar here. This is going to be this really is a big concern for me as we get towards those of you here. It's going to be, I think this is in Rapides Parish. It is, yes. So this one is going to be closer to Cheneyville, Marksville, and Sura. This area right here is a circulation we're watching. This is starting to wrap up a little bit, I mean by tightening, and this is going to be a little bit of a concern for us as we make our way towards Bordelonville. All of you west of the Mississippi River, Black Hawk, all of you just southeast of this area right here, those in this area are going to need to watch for your tornado concerns, because this is going to continue to strengthen as it looks right now. It's tighten it, and if it does continue to strengthen, it will put those of you in Marksville and Bordelonville in a chance of having this tornado actually put down something. And that's something we're concerned about. We want to make sure that those of you are knowledgeable about this and ready to take those precautions into your lowest level room as soon as possible. And this is not the only tornado warning here. Unfortunately, with the daylight today, we do have quite a lot of things we're worried about. But I am going to pass things off to Aaron now. It's going to talk to us a little bit more about that northern cluster that we are continuing to be concerned about as it moves its way into the state of Mississippi.
That's right. We've had several tornado warnings already today. And I actually saw a video of one near I-20 earlier right there. You can see over towards Louisiana and Mississippi right there. Tornado warning is in effect right now for Lake Providence, moving over into Mississippi right there. As this squall line does make its way off towards the east, we will see the chance for some stronger winds, especially as the way to the northern parts of that squall line, but the biggest tornado threat is off to the south. So tornado warning right there over for places like Greenville, or just south of Greenville, just north of Vicksburg, until about 3:15 p.m. Central Time right there, as it does cross the Mississippi River into Mississippi. And this line is going to continue moving off towards the east, as we do have this tornado watch right now in effect up until about Alabama. That will continue on for this evening, so do keep in mind, do keep weather aware as we do pass through the rest of the afternoon. As we draw some times on there, you can see it'll get to Anguilla by about 2:30 and over towards Drew by 2:45 approximately, and it'll make its way off towards closer to Jackson and Durant as we get closer to within about an hour or so. But this line is going to continue moving off towards the east, and this will produce multiple tornado warnings, most likely as we get through the rest of the day, as we have some of that daytime heating might produce some of these supercells possibly out ahead of the line right there, especially the further south you go towards the Gulf of Mexico. But as we go a little bit further to the south, you can see the severe thunderstorm warning right now is in effect from about Jackson, Mississippi, all the way down to about Alexandria and close to I-210 there in central Louisiana. So this is about Baton Rouge up to about Jackson approximately. But this is going to move over towards places like Retreat in 2:36 and over towards Vicksburg by 2:52 p.m. And remember, all these times are in central daylight time, so it's an hour behind Eastern time if you're watching it here on the East Coast. But all this will continue to move off towards the east. So Baton Rouge looks like we might see some of that rain coming up pretty soon. The radar's a little bit too far, or the radar range is a little bit too far out to see Baton Rouge there. So we'll see that here soon. But again, this will make its way off towards the east as we see those lines of storms move off. And tornado watch does extend all the way to the south towards New Orleans. So New Orleans will probably see some thunderstorms, some severe thunderstorms as we get closer to probably the evening hours. But again, we will see this line progress off towards the east. But tornado warning is in effect for places along the Louisiana-Mississippi border right there near Alexandria, moving off to the east. We do have tornado warning just off there, off to the south, looks like near Lake Charles there, along Interstate 210, that it's making its way off to the east. So if you are along the coastal portions of Louisiana, in the coastal parishes there, do make sure to heed warnings. So that's just to the southeast of Lake Charles, moving its way just off to the south of Interstate 10, south of Jennings, and off to the north and east of Cameron right there, and that will make its way off towards the east. So if we can get a time there on there, maybe they might. Okay, well, here's the velocity then. So if you can switch to the other velocity for the other radar to see that one better. But yeah, this is going to move off towards the east, and we'll see that continue off to possibly going to just south of Jennings and south of Lafayette. This tornado warning is currently in effect until Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Central Time, as it makes its way off towards the east. And we'll see more of these, as I mentioned before, we'll see more of these developing throughout the day, so we'll have to watch with what the radar, of course, shows us. And the velocity is a really great tool to use on radar because it helps us look at those tornado couplets and see whether or not we might see some or not. So yeah, there's a tornado warning just off to the west and making its way to Lake Arthur. So if you are in Lake Arthur, do go to the interior portion of your home or building, wherever you're at, and go to the lowest portion away from windows to take cover from this tornado, that is a tornado warned storm. And that's the tornado warning I was mentioning earlier, back over to Alexandria. But now I'll toss things back over to Robert with more updates.
Right. We actually have something called a Mesoscale Discussion put out by the SPC, and that just basically means they are commenting on the current conditions. It isn't an actual watch or a warning, but it is something they are commenting about conditions. And this is a good sign for us. Their Mesoscale Discussion is talking about the fact that these storms east of the main line, this is the area that, as Aaron was saying, this is an area we're concerned for discrete storm development. These are our major supercells that produce the biggest and strongest tornadoes. They're noticing that there's a bit of a cap here that's keeping this buoyancy from increasing, these storms from rising ahead of the line, and that basically prevents major supercells from from forming ahead of it. So we do still have a major QLCS tornado concern. That is basically a quasi-linear convective system, this sort of line we have here. That's where we have our major tornado concern. But if that is true, what they're saying, that means that our major risk out ahead of these storms, or we'd be most concerned about a strong supercell, or you can see a tornado that is very strong, that means that will be reduced. I'm not going to say that there isn't going to happen. These conditions can change over time. This is going to be a risk that we're going to watch over the next few really hours for the rest of the day. So these conditions can change. I don't want to induce a false sense of complacency because these are still going to be strong tornadoes already. But really strong tornadoes out ahead of the line, we do see a bit of a temper on that. It's keeping that from happening. So it is a bit of a good thing for us. If that stays, that will be a good thing for today. If that cap breaks, though, these storms could bubble up very quickly out ahead of the line and form something very concerning. Our major concern is this area up here towards the north. This is going to be really now getting towards the west of Yazoo City. Greenville, also Mississippi, those of you are going to also need to watch out for this potential tornado warned storm. That's our major area of tornado warnings out here. This one is still confirmed. These maybe we'll have to watch for the future. This one down here is our other one. This is going to be east of Alexandria. This is going to be, it's now getting its way towards the Mississippi border. And this is a bit of a thing we call here, it's a little bit less prevalent now in this right here, but you can still kind of see it. This is an area we're watching. It's called a bounded weak echo region. What that basically means is you see all these high colors on the side here, but you see this area in here that's a little bit lower. And what that means is the reflectivity values are lower, and that's called a weak echo region, where these winds are coming in and could support the development for a tornado. So when we see something like that, that's a little bit concerning, and there is a corresponding circulation with that. That's the one thing you're going to want to make sure you look for when you see an area of a tornado development. You want to make sure that this velocity does sort of correspond to it. It's pretty weak right now. I wouldn't say there's anything on the ground here. I'm going to check correlation coefficient just to confirm whether there is something there or not. And it looks like there isn't anything here, no debris being picked up. So that isn't a huge concern for us right now, but it is concerning enough that the Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for this. So those of you just east of Marksville, those of you along the area just directly east of Vic, southwest of Acme, northwest of Bordelonville, that is our area of major concern for this. This is going to be in the area close to the Mississippi border, not quite, but if it continues, it will make its way over there. Some good news, we do have this area down towards Lake Charles. This tornado warning has expired. They've allowed it to expire, but I would say the way the storm looks is still a little bit concerning, so I would not be surprised to see this start to spin up and provide us some tornado development very quickly here. And particularly this area right here is something I'm concerned about. I'm going to zoom out so you can see actual place names nearby. It's going to be southwest of Lake Arthur, directly south of Hayes, and then southeast of Lake Charles, the Lake Charles metropolitan area. So those of you in Lake Charles, I'm going to check the radar just to make sure before I say this, but Lake Charles, you are pretty much clear at this point. There's no major concern for you in Lake Charles. This is going to be east of you. We don't have an active tornado warning right now, but this is something we're going to continue to watch throughout the day. And of course, we do have this major complex up here that is continuing to produce tornadoes. So I'm going to pass things now to Chandler on the wall to talk more about the current situation.
Thank you for that, Robert. So yeah, again, we've continued to see all these tornado warnings start to pop up, and we have a new one right here next to Marksville, just east of Alexandria. So if those town names ring any bells for you guys, definitely go ahead and take some time to get indoors into an interior room in your home, especially if you live somewhere that's a little more vulnerable, like a mobile home. Go ahead and head to somebody else's house and take shelter there. But yes, right ahead of this squall line, this is a very strong squall line. So even if it's not producing a tornado at the moment, it is still very strong, producing very strong winds. But again, it is tornado warned. That means that there is a possibility of a tornado because of that rotation in the atmosphere, especially in the lower levels close to the base of the clouds. That's where we see those wall clouds develop and such. But with this system in general, it is so rain heavy that you're not going to be able to see the tornado before it hits you if there is one in this tornado warned area. So that means if you are in this region, you're not going to see when it's going to hit you until it hits you. So go ahead and take the time to seek shelter and wait it out. Wait out the storm. Be prepared to continue to wait for probably 30 minutes. This line is progressing relatively slowly. It is producing very strong winds as it makes its way across the Mississippi River. Right now, Lake Providence, you guys are currently dealing with this storm. We talked about it earlier. You guys were on the doorstep. Now you guys have 2 feet in the door. And it is very strong. You see these high reflectivity numbers, which basically just means that there is a strong amount of rain and intensity with this line of storms. And so with that, of course, it's producing strong winds, and there is that rotation in this tornado warned storm. So that, of course, means we could see a tornado in this area, and it might be a quick, not long-lasting tornado, but it still could be life-changing for those that are in the path of it. So now we're going to look at the potential timing of this system and just see what's going on and who all ahead of the system is about to experience this squall line. But right now, Lake Providence, you guys, and Greenville, you guys are experiencing the squall line. Now, out ahead of the squall line, we're looking at Leland, Indianola, and Yazoo City. You guys are all ahead of the squall line, and you will see this squall line within the next 20 to 30 minutes. So of course, if you're in Leland, it's right on your guys' doorstep. You guys have about 6 minutes to go ahead and seek shelter, stay inside, because this is a very strong storm with very strong winds. But again, we have this overall very complex system going on, and that tornado warning in the Lake Providence area, it continues to endure for the next half an hour or so, after which we can expect it to possibly expire or continue eastward into the Greenwood and Yazoo City areas. But again, it's quite a strong storm with heavy precipitation and very intense precipitation, because overall that is what we are dealing with. And if you go very far north, we actually see some of these flash flood warnings up all along the Arkansas and Missouri border, and that is associated with these heavy rains. Whenever they settle over a region for 30 plus minutes, we see the rain totals really skyrocket, and you can get upwards of an inch in an hour, which is pretty much on par for flash flood warnings. So again, this system overall is delivering both strong winds, rotation that can produce a tornado, as well as heavy rain. So keep an eye out, especially if you live in the Mississippi area. It's coming on your doorsteps, and you guys need to prepare. But I'll toss things over to Robert so he can elaborate a little more on the situation.
Right, we are continuing to watch this here. This is a situation that's developing, and I'm going to want to look at these northern storms because this is going to become a threat that we are watching over the next several hours. And those of you up here might not have as much of a discrete tornado risk as those to the south, but those of you from Paducah going into around the I-57, I-69 corridor down to Memphis, that includes the city of Mayfield. All of you in that area are going to see strong gusts from these thunderstorms. These are going to be up to 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. These are going to be basically the equivalent of a weaker tornado. So all of you really need to be continuing to watch this, particularly the city of Memphis, Germantown, Union City going to Jackson, Tennessee. I want to clarify that as Jackson, Tennessee, not Jackson, Mississippi. This is going to be towards 2:42 Central Time in Memphis, 2:45 in Germantown. It's closer to Memphis over here. 2:55 in Union City and 2:59 in Jackson. So you will see the arrival of this line there. Take these precautions like it's basically a tornado. These are going to be strong wind gusts, going to be very powerful, going to knock, even maybe power lines down. So we might have power outages, something we might look at in the future when this line moves through. But these are going to be strong storms here, even if they're not tornadoes. But if we could look at the velocity real quick on those storms, if we could see that there's anything suspect there. I'm looking towards the area close to Jonesboro, maybe seeing something there. If there is something, the National Weather Service will put down a tornado warning right now. Not seeing anything too suspect, but there are notches here that could actually produce a tornado even quickly here. We might even see some in the next few minutes if they do really wrap up here. So this is something we're watching. Could put down a tornado warning. So if you have any family in these areas where you see city names, call them now, but also out ahead of these storms. If you have family in Tennessee, Kentucky, areas like Paducah, areas like Memphis, even places like Nashville, going down towards Mississippi, where you have Jackson, going towards Oxford, areas Starkville, the Mississippi State University, all of you in there, all the way down to Hattiesburg in Mississippi, New Orleans, going down to the Gulf Coast. We need to let your family know that we have a situation going on here that could be potentially dangerous. So let's go and zoom in on that tornado warning near Alexandria. We haven't looked at that one in a minute, so I want to make sure we're covering this one properly. It is southeast of Marksville a little bit. Put on velocity just to see where this area of circulation is. It's about to cross the Mississippi River. Going to be close to 241 for gold dust, those of you in the area of this tornado warning. But this is an area of concern. We do have a tornado warning on it. That means the Weather Service is concerned about this as it continues to develop, and we're going to get a track on this as it moves towards the east. We do have a few cities here, Cottonport, Plushville, going towards Odenburg and Smithland. It's going to be towards the next hour and a half. I would say for 241 in Cottonport, all the way to 310 in Smithland. That's as it makes its way towards the Louisiana border, excuse me. This area right here is going to be under the gun for this tornado warning. Now, if we could have actually velocity on this, let's see where this area of circulation is they're most concerned about. And I would definitely say it's a little bit less strong than it was earlier, but it's probably still towards the north here, northeast of Marksville, they're most concerned about. I also see some areas of circulation to the south that could be suspect here to this soon, but northeast of Marksville, that's where they're concerned about for a potential spin-up tornado. If we could actually zoom out just to see the general situation going on and see if I can find any suspect areas of circulation. And also, we just had a new severe thunderstorm warning issued. So this is going to include the city of Opelousas, going to be west of Baton Rouge, and going to be the new severe thunderstorm warning until 3:45 Central Time. So this is going to be a thing we are concerned about for the next roughly hour or so, because again, this is 2:43 in Central Time. Our time up there is from our studios here in Tallahassee. This area right here is going to be our severe thunderstorm warning. You can really see these wind gusts out ahead of it. Where you see these bright greens on here, this is just wind picking up strong gusts. This can be very damaging, just as damaging as a tornado. That's why we're on the air, not just for tornado warnings, but also these severe thunderstorm warnings. So if we could zoom out and go a little bit south so we can get this entire severe thunderstorm warning in here. That includes the city of Jennings, Opelousas, Lafayette. It's going to be southeast of Alexandria. Alexandria, you're pretty much in the clear at this point. Those of you in this area, that's going to be our biggest concern. Of course, we do still have this tornado watch in effect until 7, so we are watching the chance of a quick spin-up tornado or damaging straight-line winds to the level of a spin-up tornado here in that area. Again, Opelousas, Lafayette, you are now under the gun for this system, and it's going to be this tornado warning we're continuing to watch up here. We're continuing to watch the situation for a developing tornado. And if we could just zoom out to get a big picture of the situation here, because I know we do have a lot of warnings being issued. We do like to focus on some areas whenever we have them, but I want to make sure we're covering every area. So we do have, of course, the tornado warning near Alexandria. That's one. We have these two up here just west of Jackson that I am going to get more concerned about as they enter this more favorable environment for tornadoes. And as we see these right here as they continue to strengthen, and we do have those severe thunderstorm warnings towards north. So I'm going to pass things off now to Aaron to continue to talk about this growing situation that we have here as it gets into Mississippi.
That's right. We do have a very strong line of severe thunderstorms right now that are making its way off towards the east, just north of the Louisiana-Arkansas border right there, moving over the Mississippi River. And these are reflectivity is coming back with some pretty strong rain values there. So very intense rain right here, just north of I-20 till about just north or just off to the northwest of Jackson, Mississippi, right there. But this is all this is all going to come in, of course, from the west, and we do have a tornado watch in effect for the greater Mississippi area. And in fact, the entire state of Mississippi was nearly covered by a moderate risk of severe thunderstorms today. So definitely a very active day so far, and we expect it to continue to be an active day. So make sure you do stay tuned here on FSU weather throughout the afternoon. So this will continue to move along I-20 here towards Jackson, Mississippi. So yeah, the tornado warning is in effect right now just off to the northwest of Jackson. This will be moving off to the northeast. So yeah, if we put a time on there. Okay, so this will make its way off towards the east at about 70 miles per hour. And it'll be there in Vicksburg at about 2:49 p.m. And then we'll get to places like Indianola by about 2:52 and over towards Greenwood by 3:13 p.m. And this is all moving off towards the east. So Vicksburg, Indianola, up towards Batesville, and up, of course, towards Memphis as well. We'll see this line of severe storms moving off towards the east. And the greatest concern about the northern part of Mississippi is going to be those straight line winds more than tornadoes. It doesn't mean we can't see any tornadoes along the squall line, but it just means that the greatest threat, at least in terms of the vertical profile of the atmosphere from the soundings we take this morning, are showing more of a straight line wind event than a tornado event for the north. But again, that does not necessarily mean that it will be just a straight line wind event. It will be more than that. But here's the cold front right here. It's right digging into places in the Louisiana right there where we have, of course, colder air coming in from the west, and that'll be pushing its way off towards the east as we get into the later parts of today. And this will actually impact our weather coming into tomorrow morning, actually, when we do see the possibility of some severe weather in our area. Maybe not as great as we will see back in Louisiana and Mississippi tonight, but the potential is still there for we're under a slight risk of severe weather by the Storm Prediction Center. So we'll have to watch that as we get into probably between about 9 and noon tomorrow to see how that, of course, evolves. But we have plenty of moisture out ahead of it. We have a lot of this moisture vecting in from the Gulf of Mexico, so dew points are in the 60s, even 70s out ahead of that main line. But of course, behind it, we had that dry line earlier. It is pretty dry as you go towards Dallas and San Antonio, where we had those storms starting and firing up yesterday, and of course now they're pushing off towards the central Gulf Coast. But of course, this is prime fuel for these thunderstorms to actually start up and of course, expand as you go up in the atmosphere. And this is what we're going to continue to see as we go through tonight and into tomorrow, as we see this area eventually make its way push off towards the east. So we're probably going to see a lot of those continue off for the rest of the evening. And there's our cold front. If you are playing spot the cold front, it is right here over Louisiana up towards Chicago there. And we have a pretty decent, actually, circulation around high pressure off the east coast. That's what we're allowing for this very windy conditions across our area. So today, we actually had some pretty high wind gusts across Tallahassee. I mean, outside, I had to watch out. I made sure I had to kind of take cover underneath some of those buildings because a lot of them can create a wind tunnel, especially here out on FSU campus. But of course, where we had the cold front already passed, those dew points are dropping, and those wind speeds are also picking up a little bit behind it, but it's coming out of a northwesterly direction over towards that area. But now we'll pass things over to Robert at the monitor for more updates.
Right, we do have an important message from the National Weather Service in Nashville, Tennessee. Unfortunately, their NOAA weather radio is off the air. So if you are in the Nashville area, you need to make sure that you have other ways of receiving warnings. Of course, the NOAA weather radio is the best way, but once this is off the air, you don't really have any other, there are other ways, but the main way that you should look at this right now is if you have a NOAA weather radio, you can tune it to one of these other frequencies. If you're in Lafayette, it's broadcasting on a frequency of 162.525 megahertz. If you're near Centerville, 162.450 megahertz, and that's Lafayette's going to be channel 6 on most NOAA weather radios, and Centerville's going to be channel 3. But if this doesn't work for you, other good ways are, of course, watching us, but you can also watch your local media affiliates in the Nashville area. You can also make sure you have your phone turned on with alerts. And all of these ways are great. Just make sure you have several ways to get warnings, because as this shows, these warnings can continue to, of course, obviously happen. And some of these ways can fail if you have like a power outage or something. So you need to make sure you have several different ways. So right now I'm going to go back to our radar so we can look at these storms here. And fortunately, we do only have one tornado warning right now, so things have quieted down just a little bit, and it looks like our main threat is a damaging winds threat from this system, but we do still have this tornado warning we're watching, and I'm going to look at velocity just to see where this is. And it looks like it's west of Transylvania and southwest of Lake Providence, about to cross the Mississippi River. This area right here looks to be our greatest chance of having a tornado, and that's going to be the area where we're looking for potentially some strong circulation on the ground there. That's our major warning for there. We do also have some other smaller areas of circulation, maybe here and here and here. That's areas we're concerned about. This obviously is not confirmed at the moment, but if you are anywhere southwest of Hollandale, west of Yazoo City, southeast of Eudora, Lake Providence, anywhere in that area along the Mississippi River, we need to be taking those precautions right now. But as I've said before, these straight line winds can be as strong as a tornado. So even if we don't have a tornado on the ground, this is still a concerning situation for us here along the line. Anywhere in this area, you are going to receive tornado-like gusts with this system. We do have strong thunderstorms that are going to be making their way into the area. And I'm going to go up towards Memphis so we can get an idea of what's going on here. And you can really see some of these gusts on the outside of these thunderstorms here. We have these gusts coming up to what looks like 40 knots here, which that's very strong for wind gusts wise, and that's something we're looking here. Going towards Jonesboro, also seeing something looking towards more like 43 knots. So all of you out ahead of this system here are going to see these strong wind gusts here, and still a chance of a spin-up tornado. Anywhere southeast of Jonesboro, Paragould, Harrisburg, even northeast of Memphis, we're seeing some suspect areas of circulation that could put down a tornado. Right now, major concern is damaging wind gusts, but we are still continuing to watch this for the chance of a tornado. This line is going to be making its way towards the east now. So the major concern is going to be getting towards Mississippi now, And that's what we're going to be watching for, new circulations developing, new tornado warnings starting to be put down. We are in this area of concern near Lake Providence, and I want to make sure this is starting to move towards Lake Providence. So if you are in the city of Lake Providence, you need to be underground. That's your best bet, underground tornado shelter, or in a lowest level interior room now, because this is making its way right on top of you. So you need to be going there now. You don't have any more time, you have no time to wait. You need to be going there if you are in the city of Lake Providence. But as we make our way towards the south, I'm starting to see some suspect areas of circulation near Tallulah, west of Vicksburg along I-20 here. That's what this red road is right here. Newellton, seeing some areas that could spin up here. We're continuing to watch as we make our way towards the southern area, towards Natchez. Seeing some areas of circulation. These are not tornado warned, so we're not as concerned about these, but they could put something down, and if they do, we will warn you as soon as possible. I'm going to make our way towards Louisiana now, where the southern part of this line is. And northwest of Opelousas, we have some concerns here that we're continuing to watch. Main concern, of course, is these winds out ahead of this line that are very strong, including towards Iota, where we have actually gusts, radar detected at least, towards 55 or 54 knots, excuse me. So that's some very strong wind gusts. You're going to make sure you are inside that interior lowest level room, because these are going to be very strong wind gusts on the order of potentially a weaker tornado. So it's going to be very concerning for you here. Also seeing some areas of potential, some circulation towards Monkey and Ville Platte. Those areas down here could see some suspect circulation areas, so we are watching for the potential of a tornado. As we make our way towards the south, towards Lake Arthur, going towards right on the Louisiana coast. That's something we are watching here for the potential of a tornado that could happen, but we're, of course, continuing to watch this. Our main suspect area is probably this area right here, but we don't have anything confirmed right now, so we are continuing to watch that. But we do have 2 new tornado warnings now. So as I said, this would pick up, and we are starting to see this pick up now. As I was saying, Tallulah, we were just concerned about that. The National Weather Service is concerned about that too. They just put out a tornado warning. So Tallulah, you need to be into your lowest level interior room right now. You don't need to take any more time. Just go there, take your family, take your friends and your pets. That's all you need to take with you right now. You don't have any more time to plan. You don't have time to get materials. Just go into that bathroom, that closet that you already know to go to. Go there now. If you have an area that's like a basement or a FEMA tornado shelter, that's your best bet, but a lowest level interior room away from outside walls and windows is also good. We do continue to have that tornado warning just north of you guys. It's going to be towards Lake Providence and Rolling Fork. Again, you need to be taking those same precautions I just said for Tallulah. And this one's a very long tornado warning. The reason why is because these storms are moving so quickly. Let's actually look towards, let me see. I believe this one is the one that we're looking at here. Yes. And it is moving at 65 miles per hour. So that's why we're so concerned about these tornadoes, is because they can drop down so quickly and move at a speed that is freeway speeds. If you're driving on I-20, and I'm going to take a little bit of a thing that I heard from a professor we have here. If you stick your hand out and, or sorry, not a professor, but my mentor here at the National Weather Service, if you stick your hand out and you sort of put it out on the highway, it's going to go back because it's so fast. In this area right here, the tornado is moving at that speed. It's freeway speeds. So this is why we're so concerned about this. This is not a good situation. You really need to be underground or into that lowest level interior room anywhere in this area. I know sometimes you want to be like, well, I'm on the far east side of this tornado warning. I'll wait. I'll watch it. We'll see what happens. You can't do that today. Really, any day that's a bad idea, but particularly today where these storms are moving so fast, you're not even going to have time to react. You're going to want to make sure you are inside that lowest level interior room or basement really right now. Yazoo City, you really need to go there right now. It's best to be safe than sorry. Take 30 minutes out of your workday to go there now and just go there immediately. You don't have any more time. And I also want to emphasize, as I said, talking about a workday, sometimes you're in situations that you aren't with your family. You're with, you're in school, you're in a university, you're at a workplace, and it might feel kind of awkward to tell other people, well, go into the shelter right now. We have this tornado warning. They may be like, well, what's the point? With a day like today, these tornadoes are very strong, and these are going to be very, intense tornadoes. You can't take a chance at these things. If it feels awkward to go out and be like, well, hey, we need to get into the shelter now. We need to stop our work. people who have been in working areas, we saw with the Mayfield tornado back in December, where people were working in that candle factory. If they were just able to take that shelter earlier, they would have been able to react and they would have been safe. But unfortunately, people died there. And these kind of situations can happen here too. So we need to make sure that everyone is taking shelter now. Tell everyone that you know in the area a tornado is coming, and we're concerned about that. So this is a situation we are very concerned about, continuing to watch for Mississippi and Louisiana. But Chandler's going to be on the wall now. I'm going to talk about our new tornado warnings in Arkansas. We have a new tornado warning as well.
Thank you for that, Robert. Right, well, as we've been talking about, we've had those tornado warnings upwards close to that Louisiana, Mississippi area. But then you see a little bit farther up north, we actually just had a few warnings issued, just like Robert was mentioning, right actually north of Memphis. So pretty populated area in general that's making its way just across the I-555, or excuse me, corridor, making its way along the I-55 corridor. Again, this is a pretty strong batch of storms, and it's making its way pretty quickly across the Arkansas and Tennessee area. Thank you for that, Aaron. We have, it looks like West Memphis, Memphis itself, Germantown, Dyersburg, you guys are all under the gun, like Robert mentioned. So everybody in this West Tennessee region needs to go ahead and take shelter, especially along the Mississippi River following the I-55 corridor. Everybody in that region needs to take shelter. If we zoom in on that tornado warning and look at the velocity real quick, see if we can spot the couplet. So as you towards the end of this frame, you can see that right there we have this stronger batch of winds that are rotating together, creating a bit of a turn in the atmosphere. And that is a cause for concern as it makes its way across the I-55 corridor, heading towards Golden Lake. Again, if you zoom in a little closer, exactly, we see that just between the I-55 corridor and the I-55 corridor, we have this rotation couplet that's making its way along through Birdsong, Witten. So if you guys know anybody that is in North Memphis, go ahead and tell them to take shelter and be prepared for a tornado warned storm. Again, this storm, even though it produces the shorter, not long-lasting tornadoes, it still produces very strong straight-line winds, and those tornadoes are very hard to see. You cannot predict them very easily as a individual that is not meteorologically trained. So again, you can't see them with your own naked eye, so it's something to just go ahead and be prepared for in advance by going into those interior rooms in your home and taking shelter promptly, especially those in the North Memphis area and just in the western Tennessee and Mississippi regions in general. But again, this strong storm is making its way along I-55 corridor headed towards Golden Lake and towards US 61. So again, if you are in one of these towns, or if you know somebody that is, go ahead and give them a call, let them know in advance so that they can take shelter and so that they are out of the way of a dangerous situation. But again, we have some of these tornado warnings along the Mississippi River, and we're going to toss it over to Robert.
Right, we do have a new tornado warning now that is going to be in effect, and this is going to be for the system we're already concerned about, and I really don't like the look of this right here. We have two pretty prominent areas of circulation right here, east of Kilbourne, southwest of Hollandale. Right here we're worried about. West of Rolling Fork, northeast of Lake Providence. That's another one we're worried about. This tornado warning is going to be until, it's going to be 4 p.m. Central Time. I believe this is the one. Let me make sure it is.
Let's have some.
This one right here. Yes, it's going to be, and they're moving northeast at 55. So as I said earlier, with this one down here that's moving at 65, this is still screaming down the road. Imagine this is interstate freeway speeds that you're going here. This is a tornado moving very fast. So you're going to want to make sure you are continuing to watch the situation. As it moves into a more favorable environment for tornadoes, this is going to be a major concern for us. So we're watching those two areas right there as they really start to tighten up. I Do not like the look of those, and we just had a new tornado warning issued. I will get to in just one second. I want to make sure we don't have any debris on the ground. Doesn't look like it yet, but we will continue to watch that for if there is a development of a new tornado. We do have a new tornado warning issued, actually, and this is towards the area of Memphis. And this is going to be close to Paragould, and it's going to be Brighton, Kennett. I'm going to try and zoom in here. Laptop's a little, yep, got that. Okay, so this one right here, this is a pretty prominent area of circulation right here, southeast of Marmaduke and west of Cardwell, northeast of Paragould. I'm going to take off this warning text just so you can see it a little bit better. This is an area that we're looking right here as it moves towards the north-northeast. It's going to make its way into Tennessee within the next roughly 30 minutes or so. It's right now in Arkansas, and it's making its way towards the northeast, towards Union City, going to be possibly under the gun from this tornado that you're going to want to watch. It is not confirmed, but we're continuing to watch it. South Fulton, Linville, those are going to be down the road. So I'm just naming cities that are far down the road at this point because these storms are going so fast. I'm not saying you're under a tornado warning, but I'm just saying those of you who look like you may be under the gun, I want to make sure that everyone knows that they can be ready to be prepared. We're going to continue to watch these as they continue to potentially tighten up. There's this one down here. It's going to be northwest of Memphis, and there's this area of circulation that we're pretty concerned about right here. It's northeast of Gilmore. So this area right here that we're watching for a potential circulation. As I said again, these colors here, the greens basically mean winds are going towards the radar, reds are going away from the radar, and as you see these winds are going this way and this way right next to each other, that basically means you're circulating. In this new update, you can really see it right here, you're circulating. That's what we're concerned about for your tornado right here. So all of you in the area of Terrell and Wilson and Osceola need to be into your underground areas right now, or into an oil-level interior room. As I say, again, with this one up here, Cardwell, Senath, and Kennett. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing any of these. This is not exactly my geographic area as much, but those of you in this region are going to need to take shelter as well. So make sure you are ready to take shelter immediately, going to that lowest level interior room or bathroom, basement as soon as possible right now if you can. Can't really waste time with these storms. We're going back down to these that are starting to strengthen again. As we said, this is a favorable tornado environment here. So as they get into that area, we are probably going to see more tornado warnings issued. We don't want to see that happen. That's not a thing that is a good thing. We're not excited about that. This is going to be, unfortunately, it looks like a bad situation for all of you in Mississippi, but it does seem like it is strengthening here. This main circulation southwest of Hollandale is something we're worried about. Hollandale, Indianola, anywhere along this area, right along, you just cross the Mississippi River here. That's what this is right here, the Mississippi River. This area right here is what we're watching for that circulation. That's a concern. Hollandale, you need to be into your lowest level interior room or basement right now. And this one is now very concerning. I would say this is quite concerning. Southwest of Eagle Bend, this is definitely a strong signature for a QLCS tornado. What it could be potentially here. So as this gets its way towards Valley Park and Phoenix and Redwood, you really need to be watching this because this is going to start to tighten up and it will pose a risk for all of you as you get towards those areas and even ultimately Yazoo City later on. This is going to be a major concern northeast of Tallulah. Tallulah, you are in the clear now. So you're going to get some strong rain, some wind gusts from these storms, but you're pretty much clear from a tornado threat right now, but we're very concerned about this area right here where you see these two colors right next to each other. That's where we have that tornado risk that we're very concerned about. So we have 5 active tornado warnings right now. And I want to make sure we're still good to the south. These are still, even if you don't have a tornado warning, very strong wind gusts. So that's something we're very concerned about for all of you. You need to make sure you're inside for these. You can't be outside. That's going to be a very bad thing if you're outside for these storms. And I don't like the look of this right here. This could start to do something. Whiteville, you really need to be into that lowest level interior room. Even if there's no tornado, these gusts are going to be very strong. But if this does start to do something, it could drop a tornado very quickly and could do it with very little notice. So Whiteville, going to be up towards Vunkey and Marksville. That's going to be our major concern for this severe thunderstorm warning as it continues. I'm also seeing some areas of circulation in here. Seems like broader circulation. but as it continues to develop, it could tighten up and become an even bigger concern for a tornado development. And I really want to emphasize that we are getting into a more favorable tornado environment here. So as these more broad areas of circulation make their way over here, they're going to become tighter and could put down an actual tornado. I am also concerned as we make our way towards the west of Lafayette, southwest of Opelousas, this area just northwest of Crowley right here could also put down a tornado. So we're concerned about that. No tornado warning from the Weather Service right now, but we do have a damaging wind threat. Some of these winds out ahead of the line are going to be strong no matter what. But as this makes its way towards the northeast, it is going to also put down a potential tornado risk for you there. So that's our general situation. I'm now going to pass things back off to the wall for Aaron to talk more about our specific storms that we have here.
That's right, Robert. We have 5 tornado warnings right now across the deep south right now. We do have that tornado warning just north of Memphis there across north or northeastern portions of Arkansas moving over into Tennessee, crossing the Mississippi River right there, ahead of this very strong line right here. Kind of, yeah, you can see kind of converge. You see there's actually 2 lines right here, one behind here, another one kind of forming ahead of it, and they kind of converge right there. And that energy, of course, helped with rotating this thunderstorm and this tornado up north of Memphis. And we'll see more of these continue on as we go throughout the rest of the day, as we do have the heating from, at least the heating from the sun out ahead of it might help induce some of these thunderstorms. Like you can see out ahead just off to the east of Interstate 55 there, just off to the southeast of Memphis, Tennessee. And mostly, at least most of the convective activity, at least I'm seeing out ahead of it, is just to the south of Interstate 40 there. But of course, we'll see these continue on throughout the rest of the day. And where it has been raining, we actually have a flash flood warning up just off to the north and west of Tennessee there. And of course, we might see more of these pop up as we start seeing more rainfall accumulations throughout the rest of the evening. But as we can kind of go down to the south here to show more thunderstorms. Here we go. Yeah, so we do have tornado warnings in effect right now for just off to the northwest of Jackson. And this actually is a pretty ominous looking line, at least on our reflectivity there. You can see just off to the north of Vicksburg moving over towards Yazoo City and Belzoni there. And we will see if, let's see, if you can put a time frame on that to kind of see where it's going to go to. Okay. So, yeah, this will make its way over towards Interstate 55 within the next probably about half hour or so. Yeah. So it'll make its way over to Indianola by about 3:13 p.m., over towards Yazoo City by about 3:19, and then it'll make its way over towards Ridgeland and Madison as we get to 3:33 in about a half hour. So if you are in Yazoo City or up towards Indianola, do make sure you do take cover in an interior room of your building, wherever you're at, home or residential building, wherever you're at. In the lower part of that building, just to make sure you're secure in case we do have tornadoes. This does not mean we will for sure see if it has a tornado on the ground, but it means radar has indicated tornado warning or rotation in that line as it moves its way off towards these. And actually, if we can get correlation coefficient there. So at least I'm not picking up any, or this velocity, all right. So now we're actually picking up a pretty good signature indicative of a squall line tornado right there, just off to the northwest, right there. Right there. Just to the northwest of Vicksburg right there, where we see the greens and the reds matching pretty closely together. That's where we have rotation embedded in those line of thunderstorms right there. And really, it's not just tornadoes as well you have to watch out for throughout this entire event. It's really going to be mostly just straight line winds can also do just as much damage as tornadoes as well. So you want to make sure you take precautions, of course, and don't have any loose items outside during this whole event, not just for the tornado, or not just through the tornado event tonight. But right there, you can see that's where the tornado is likely located right there, just off to the northeast of Route 465, State Route 465 there in Mississippi. And you right there, you can see where it kind of notches in right there. That's where we would have that rotation present. And that's what issued this tornado warning for we're going into Mississippi now, across the Mississippi River. Actually, I believe this is the Mississippi River right here, actually, that kind of meanders off to the north there. And this is all moving toward the northeast. So if you're traveling along U.S. Route 61 right there, do make sure you take precaution of this. This is heading your direction if you are traveling over in this, or if you're traveling along Route 61 there. But time frames, we'll see about 3:16 p.m. over to Florence, and over to about Enola at about 3:34, and then lastly over towards Santeria as we get to about 3:36 p.m. over, if you get closer to U.S. Route 49 there in Mississippi. But again, this is all part of this huge system that's bringing in a lot of these squall lines, and of course, or this huge squall line across much of the Deep South, and these tornado warnings embedded within these squall lines too. And a few supercells are possible out ahead of it, especially further off to the Gulf Coast as well. So we'll have to see how that progresses throughout the rest of the evening. But tornado watch is still in effect for much of New Orleans until I think about I think it's 3 o'clock from last time I saw, 3:15. But yeah, this will continue off towards tornado watch until 9 p.m. So it looks like they just extended that 9 p.m. Central Time there for the New Orleans metro area. And this will move along I-10 here across much of Louisiana. And we do have some thunderstorms that actually are starting to fire off just off to the south near the coastal parishes there. So just off to the south of 210 there and moving off towards Alexandria. And there actually is a severe thunderstorm warning for about Interstate 210 up till about Jackson, Mississippi there, as this whole squall line is moving off to the east. And we're going to watch this as we continue on the rest of the evening. We're going to see these fire up as they make its way off from the Gulf Coast. But now for more of that, I'll pass things over to Robert.
Right, thank you, Aaron. So we're continuing to watch these storms. We do have a new tornado warning. It's going to be a little bit towards the north of our current complex, and we look towards right there. This is a storm we were concerned about earlier. It's going to be just, if we zoom a little bit more towards the north there, yeah, that one right there, going to be southwest of Clarksdale. It's right now Shelby. You need to be underground or inside a room away from outside walls and windows on the first floor right now. That's it. You just need to go there right now. This storm is very close to you. You need to take those precautions immediately. Anywhere along US 278, Marigold, Shelby, southwest of Clarksdale, you need to go there right now. This is the area we're concerned about for our circulation. Gunnison too, you need to take those same precautions. You can't take this for granted. This is a very serious situation here. This storm is going to make its way off towards the northeast, so it's going to go towards Clarksdale at 316, Drew, and Cleveland. Not as big of a tornado threat for down you there in Drew and Cleveland, but that's also going to make its way in 316 and 325 for Clarksdale. As we make our way towards US 49 east and US 49 west, you're also going to be under a risk for this tornado. It's going to be US 278 towards Shelby for this current one. Again, Shelby, you really need to be taking those precautions right now, going underground or inside that lowest level interior room. If we could zoom out and go towards the Mississippi tornadoes that we are also continuing to watch, these are a big complex that continues to produce tornadoes. It has done it since this morning when they first started to strengthen a little bit and get a circulation. They have really been producing ever since. We've sort of seen less and more tornado warnings every sort of hour, but they continue to pose a risk here right now north of Vicksburg, anywhere along US 61, west of Yazoo City. We're watching roughly, I would say, around 3 areas of circulation. One right to the west of Vicksburg. Vicksburg City, you're not really going to be under big concern from this one. This is going to go towards the north, but if you are in the northern suburbs of Vicksburg, you need to take those precautions immediately. US 61, this is an area of circulation right here we're also concerned about. And finally, northeast of Lake Providence, we do have what looks like maybe even 2 areas that we're concerned about. If we could zoom out just a little bit to get some more perspective. If I've said your city name, you really need to be taking those precautions either immediately, if you're under the tornado warning, maybe zoom back in a little bit towards the tornado warning. I just want to see the areas just east of those warnings, really. So right now, Yazoo City, that's going to be coming towards you in the next roughly hour. We have US 55, Lexington, Kosciuszko, that's going to be an area that you're going to see these tornadoes maybe make their way towards in the next roughly hour. I would say Hollandale, Indianola, and Verness, Moorhead, and Yazoo City. It's going to be within the next hour, going to be 318 for Hollandale, going to be ultimately more like 334 for Moorhead and 345 for Yazoo City. So those of you in that time frame are going to need to take those precautions. You're going to need to go into that lowest level interior room right now. Again, these storms are roughly northeast of Jackson right now. That's our major concern. Those are the biggest tornado producers. If you're anywhere in those polygons, you need to respect the polygon, as James Spann says. Go into those lowest level interior rooms right now, away from outside walls and windows. Maybe even a basement or a FEMA-grade tornado shelter if you have that, that's best. But for the rest of this line, your main threat is damaging winds. We could see some tornadoes potentially develop. So actually on that note, I'd like us to switch to velocity real quick, and let's just sort of go down the line from north to south all the way up north in Kentucky, and we're just going to go down and talk about each of these areas that we're concerned about. So if we go back up towards Paducah, where this line is at its farthest north, or not Paducah, sorry, it's going to be more towards the Illinois area, because this is a very long line that we're watching, and it's continuing to develop. So Cape Girardeau, that's basically the northern extent of this line. I know some of our radar coverage doesn't go out quite that far, but Sykeston, Greenway, and it's going to be west of Union City along US 55. I do see an area of suspect circulation west of Interstate 57 right there that we're watching. That is something we're going to watch as it makes its way towards the city of Paducah. But again, right now, this is not something tornado warned, so that means the Weather Service is not expressly concerned about that for tornado development. If we make our way towards, basically going right down the US 55, or Interstate 55, corridor, going towards Munford, I zoom in towards right east of Jonesboro. There's a few areas I'm a little bit concerned about there as well. Marked Tree, northeast of you, we're seeing some areas that are pretty suspect. I wouldn't say these are tornado producers right now, but they could be issued soon. Southwest of Manila, northwest of Golden Lake, along the Interstate 55, east of Interstate 555, that's some areas we're concerned about as well. But anyway, even if you don't have a tornado threat with any of these, you're going to have a strong damaging winds threat that's going to be basically equivalent to a weak tornado. So even if you don't have that, if you're in any of these polygons, you need to be taking those precautions right now. So let's continue south now, going towards the Memphis area, seeing an area just west of Memphis right there, northeast of Forest City. That is potentially another area that we're watching. If we could continue to go south, that severe thunderstorm warning right there, Forest City, west of Helena, West Helena, that area also has some areas of very broad rotation, not an area that we're concerned about immediately. But if you go even more far south of that, southwest of Clarksdale, we do have an active tornado warning. And that area right there, northwest of Marigold, southwest of Shelby is really tightening up. If we could zoom in on that right there, that is really tightening up. That is getting a big concern for me right now. US 278, Shelby, Duncan, Marigold, Gunnison need to be underground right now. Underground or inside that lowest level interior room, away from outside walls and windows immediately. This is a very damaging, dangerous situation. If we could put on correlation coefficient just to see if there is debris from this right now. I don't know if there is, and there is not right now, so that's a really good thing. But that circulation has tightened up considerably over the last minute and a half. Let's go over to reflectivity so I can see what the storm structure looks like with the storm. And this is right here, right into Shelby. So anyone in the city of Shelby need to be taking those lowest level interior room precautions. Go in that room outside, or sorry, not outside, don't go outside, away from walls. There are outside walls, away from outside windows. Go there right now. That's our biggest concern for you right now. So we're going to track on that. Cleveland, Clarksdale are going to be next. Wouldn't really say the tornado is probably going to split the difference between you two. So if you know anyone that lives in the Cleveland or south of Clarksdale, north of Cleveland, that is going to be a precaution for them. But right now, that tornado warning is really in effect. It's going to make its way towards the east. That's a big concern for us. So let's go back to velocity so I can continue to see what this looks like. And it is a strong circulation that I'm very concerned about along US 278. Shelby, Mound Bayou. Can you actually zoom in back in a little bit there so I can name some roads and cities right next to Shelby? Just tighten that picture a little bit close to Shelby where that circulation is, because that is a very damaging situation. You see the reds and greens right there. That's that is winds that are circulating right next to each other. Something we're very concerned about. So if we could tighten in, that would be nice. So I could name those cities and roads there. We do have the velocity, but I'd like to actually tighten it so I can name these roads so people can take shelter around that area in Shelby. Northeast of Cleveland, this is going to be west of US 49 west. So Duncan, Mound Bayou, even getting a little bit closer if you can on Shelby, because that's right now where the tornado is potentially about to go. Yes, it's going to be Arkansas 32. If you could even tighten it a little bit more, the reason I'm just wanting to be so concerned with this is because this is a tornado that is there right now. If you could zoom right back in on Shelby so I can say some street names from the city itself. Yeah, just tighten even more. Just keep going and go a little bit more. if you can. If it won't let you zoom in, that's fine. Just Shelby, southwest of Duncan, northwest of Mountain Bayou, right east of Gunnison. So yeah, right there. Arkansas 32, you really need to be taking those precautions right now, going into that lowest level interior room, away from outside walls and windows, into a basement. Right now, Winstonville, US 278 and Arkansas 32. So if we could zoom out a little bit more now so we can go out to the general situation here, just want to see what other circulations we have. Yeah, just zoom out, not all the way, but basically just so we can keep going south. So US 278, let's go back down US 278. I don't see anything there that's too concerning, but just keep going down. We have that tornado warning down there. So northwest of Hollandale, right there, that's one. Northwest of Lake Providence, that's another. Silver City, west of Luis. If you could zoom right into this area right here so we can look and see what is going on there. US 261, that's an area we're watching. Right here, northwest of Vicksburg, that's what we're really looking for, this area of circulation, as it makes its way towards northeast, towards Yazoo City. So again, take those lowest level interior room precautions, outside, away from outside walls, inside, get inside. Basically, you're trying to insulate yourself from the tornado, away from those outside walls and windows as soon as you can right now. Get everyone, your family and your friends there as soon as possible. So if we could zoom right back out, look again, and we're going to continue to go south, take it down towards, I see an area of circulation just north of Port Gibson we're watching. Natchez, I don't see anything too concerning. Yeah, right there, just northwest of Port Gibson along US 61. That is a concern, and that could continue to strengthen and tighten up over the next few minutes or so. So if we could zoom right back out a little bit again, and we can just continue to go south. Natchez, Woodville, Opelousas, all of you are going to see basically strong winds from this. We are also seeing some, what could be some circulations here. I'm not seeing anything too tornadic. And then finally, just go a little bit further south. And then Lafayette, Opelousas, not seeing anything too concerning. But again, these straight line wind gusts are going to be basically the equivalent of a strong tornado. And finally, just taking you all the way down to the Gulf Coast here so we can just see, and then nothing major too strong there. So again, that's what we're watching here. These are our main areas of circulation. I'm going to pass things off to Chandler to talk more about some of these specific tornadoes.
Just went across the whole entire line looking at some of those spins. Let's go back up to up towards the Mississippi and Arkansas border just to see some of that cluster of tornado warnings that we were talking about earlier. Mississippi River, like up towards, yep, there. Keep on going. A little farther north, just a little more. There we go, north of Jackson. Let's go to those. Good. All right. So again, just looking at the reflectivity, it's pretty strong. We have very strong rainfall rates embedded within this squall line. It's moving quite quickly as it makes its way towards Jackson, Mississippi. So if you are a resident of Mississippi, if you know anybody that is in West Mississippi and the Jackson area going north towards Memphis, definitely let them know about these tornado-warned storms, especially right here, just basically east of Lake Providence. Lake Providence, we've been saying your name quite a lot, but now getting up towards Yazoo City, we have these two tornado-warned storms that are dangerous. As Robert pointed out, they do have some of those rotation couplets. It's starting to look like it's becoming more of a straight line wind event, which is what we expect with the whole entire system in general. But there's a possibility for a rotation couplet, and we see something resembling that at least a little bit farther north. Yeah, right there next to Rolling Fork. So there is a little bit of a couplet right there. And overall, this storm has been producing a lot of the straight line wind gusts as well. So if you are along this line, again, the possibility of quick spin-up tornadoes as well as straight line winds and strong rainfall rates are all on the table, especially as it progresses through Mississippi and we see it intensify a little bit, feeding off of the warmth and the moisture. And we'll go back to actually looking at that big picture, just looking at the national view. We had all this warm air that's just settled across the southeast from Mississippi to Georgia and South Carolina. And all of this is storm fuel. It's just something that the squall line will continue to feed on as it makes its way through Mississippi towards Alabama, staying within that region that Robert was mentioning earlier, the moderate risk and the enhanced risk. We'll actually point that out here in a second. But it's a pretty warm southeastern day, and as such, the squall line is feeding on that warmth and that moisture. We have a lot of moisture coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, a lot of wind that's carrying that moisture into Mississippi, Alabama, the panhandle of Florida, and even into Georgia. So again, this is all storm fuel for the storm as it progresses from Mississippi into Alabama. And those wind directions, again, they're surging up from New Orleans to Chicago from a southerly direction, carrying a lot of that warmth and that moisture. But as soon as the cold front has passed, we're also seeing some strong winds making their way through from the northwest. For that severe weather outlook, again, we have this moderate risk that extends through the whole entire state of Mississippi and into Tennessee, as well as Alabama, and even into Florida. So it's quite an interesting setup and one that we need to take note of as we progress through the evening, and it makes its way through midnight. We'll see the storm continue to barrel through, and of course, nighttime storms are always still very dangerous because people typically are asleep and aren't paying attention to those warnings and the NOAA weather radios that need to be alerted, that you need to alert you. Also, make sure if you have your phone on you to keep it from, make sure it's not silenced, like those warnings that you find kind of annoying whenever they ring very loudly on your phone. Make sure that those aren't silenced. But again, so the outlook for today has been a big red bullseye over much of the Mississippi and Alabama region. But even tomorrow, we're seeing a slight risk for our area, and it will extend all the way upward into the Carolinas. But even for our area, tomorrow morning especially, we're going to see some of those stronger storms make their way through the North Florida region, delivering strong winds, probably not as much of the tornado potential, but at least strong winds and heavy rain. So again, those two elements are very dangerous, and a quick spin-up tornado cannot be ruled out. As for future radar, we can really just see that this strong line of storms is going to make its way towards the West Panhandle by about that midnight, 1:47 a.m. time. It will be through much of the state of Mississippi and all the way into Alabama, making its way towards Georgia. And then as it progresses, it will be on top of our viewing area by about that 8:16 a.m., so that commuter rush hour time. So anybody commuting to work needs to take caution tomorrow morning. It'll be pretty strong storms, nasty storms on your way to work. But that will stretch all the way up into the Carolinas and towards the mid-Atlantic. So pretty strong system overall that's stretching from the Gulf up into the Carolinas and the Virginia region. But again, it'll clear out as we progress throughout the rest of the week before it just moves offshore. But again, for today and it's tomorrow, we're looking at some strong, severe storms and possibility of tornadoes like we've been talking about. But I'm going to toss things over to Robert so that he can talk a little more about the current situation.
Right, we do actually have a new tornado watch that has been issued, and this is going to include the areas of Paducah, Evansville. It's going to be southern Illinois, the Cairo area, southwest Indiana, going to be far east Mississippi, or other end of the state, Missouri, excuse me, and it's going to include Cape Girardeau and parts of western Kentucky, not going to include Bowling Green yet. But this is a new watch that is out. It includes a moderate chance of tornadoes, a high chance of severe wind, and a very low chance of severe hail. So the main threat we're watching here is for spin-up tornadoes and some very strong winds that could be to the level of a tornado. So as Chandler was talking earlier, we do have an outlook, and this has been amended now. So all of you to the west, Little Rock, Shreveport, you're now in the clear. You could see some more thunder, but severe-wise, you are in the clear. Those of you, this in the moderate risk are still definitely under the gun. This is going to be Jackson, Greenville, Memphis, and other Jackson in Tennessee. All of you are going to be under the gun for this. This moderate risk also includes all the far way east as Alabama, Birmingham. It's going to be west of Huntsville, not going to include Huntsville, but you are under an enhanced risk. This moderate risk also includes places like Mobile. It's going to include places like Gulfport, the North Shore of New Orleans, not New Orleans itself, but the North Shore. You're also going to see moderate risk. So this is going to be a very strong chance of tornadoes and even some violent tornadoes. City of New Orleans, Eastern of Birmingham, places like Auburn, Huntsville, Nashville, Bowling Green, Paducah, Evansville, you are going to see an enhanced risk, which means you still do have a significant risk of tornadoes, maybe not as strong as in the moderate, but still very, very concerned about that area. Slight risk includes Louisville, east of St. Louis, not the city of St. Louis itself, Chattanooga, Atlanta, Columbus, even the city of Tallahassee here in our own viewing area. So we are going to watch the chance of some spin-up tornadoes in that region as well. And finally, those in the marginal, like Indianapolis, Cincinnati, those of you are not really going to see a strong tornado event, but we're still concerned for a chance of some high winds that you may see. Main tornado risk is going to be in this hatched area, which includes the city of New Orleans, includes Dothan, some of our western areas of this own viewing area in Tallahassee, Jackson, Greenville, Memphis, Birmingham. All of you are under that risk of strong, potentially violent tornadoes over the next several hours. That's one of the reasons why we are very concerned. Right now, we do have 3 active tornado warnings. So we do have these 2 tornado warnings which continue to cause problems. They spun up earlier today and they just have been continuing to go ever since. Southwest of Yazoo City, southwest of Lexington, east of Hollandale. Those of you in this area are going to continue to need to take those tornado precautions. We do have several areas of circulation we are watching here. So we do have one right here. We do have one right over here and here. These are 3 areas we are very concerned about as we do continue to move towards the northeast. And these storms are screaming at a very high speed, going to be at almost 60 miles per hour. So if you are anywhere along this area, Yazoo City, east of Hollandale, southwest of Indianola, south of Indianola, you need to be taking those tornado precautions immediately because this is a big concern for us as we continue to watch these develop. And still, this area right here is a big concern, but all of these are really concerns for us. So if you're in a tornado warning, you have to take those precautions. You can't take this too lightly. This will be a very serious situation as it makes its way into Mississippi. And I believe we also have this other one up here, this other tornado warning, which is close to Shelby. And this is a very concerning one, honestly. This is one that we've been continuing to watch. This is now also in northern Mississippi. So if we could get towards the Memphis radar here, excuse me, we might have a little bit of a better look on this storm. And we can see the velocity to see whether it's still concerning. And it is. We do still see it here. We see some broad rotation around Shelby and Duncan, where we do see this chance for a tornado developing. I'm actually going to switch back down to the Jackson radar to see if we might get a better look there. It's kind of halfway between the radars, so the look isn't exactly the best, but we do see the chance for a strong tornado here no matter what. And it does seem to be pretty much right over Duncan right now. So if you're in the city of Duncan, you need to take those precautions immediately. You go into that lowest level interior room or a room that is in a basement or below ground tornado shelter. That's your best bet, but a lowest level interior room is still a good bet. It will keep you safe from this tornado. You need to go there right now. Duncan, southwest of Clarksdale. Clarksdale itself might be under the gun soon, so going to need to watch that. Right now, those are only 3 tornado warnings, so that's a good thing that we only have 3 right now. It could be more, but even these 3 are still a bad sign, so we're going to continue to watch out for these 3 and these other areas along and up and down the line for not just the chance of a spin-up tornado, but even the chance of some damaging winds that could impact these areas. So we're going to continue to watch this. We do have some reports of damaging winds here, even prefrontal winds. These are winds ahead of this front system. We do have a non-thunderstorm wind gust that actually had a tree downed. It's nearby Jackson. It's going to be in Madison, Mississippi. So that took down a tree ahead of this storm, which is basically just showing how strong these wind gusts are. So you need to take these precautions. Even if there isn't a thunderstorm in your area, these winds ahead of the front still going to be very strong. We even have one, I believe this is a non-thunderstorm wind gust of 50 miles per, or 45 knots, 50 miles per hour in Birmingham. This is not associated with thunderstorm. This is just so strong winds here that it is ahead of the front still causing damage, and it just shows how even more damaging these storms are if this is already doing damage ahead of the storms. 2 trees down on Shady Grove and Gardendale. This is just northwest of Birmingham here, and we do even have some gusts extending as far north as the Jackson, Tennessee area. This is in Carroll, Tennessee, a little bit northeast of Jackson, I believe. And this is trees down on General Forest Drive in that area in Carroll, Tennessee. So these gusts out ahead of this system are doing major damage, and this is a big concern for us here. But we do continue to watch for the chance of tornadoes, even not associated with these wind gusts. We do even have a funnel cloud reported, and this is going to be in Benton, Mississippi. This is around, around, I believe, that is roughly 20 minutes ago, where we have this report of a funnel cloud. So there's no tornado warning there active right now, but we are continuing to watch for the chance of strong tornadoes. So I'm going to pass things back off to the wall, where Aaron will talk about the specific storms that we're still continuing to watch.
That's right, Robert, and we still have storms that are continuing off across the Mississippi River into Mississippi and down to Louisiana right there. Currently, we have severe thunderstorm warnings from about Jackson, Mississippi, all the way down to about Interstate 210 there in Louisiana. We do have tornado warnings out just north of that, too, north of Jackson, Mississippi. And you can see actually there's two, actually looks like another one up there over towards far northeastern or far northwestern portions of Mississippi. And again, this line continues all the way up till about Kentucky. But this whole line is moving off to the east, so we'll have to see how this continues throughout the afternoon. As you might see, there's more of these thunderstorms are forming out ahead of these lines, out ahead of the main line. Excuse me there. So you can see right here, there's some more storms forming just off to the east of Memphis, Tennessee, and this is all moving towards the north and east. So currently, that tornado warning that was just issued before, just north of Memphis, has been expired. But we still have severe thunderstorm warnings up just north of Memphis. So it's still very dangerous to be outside. So do make sure you take shelter in an interior room. But most of the tornado warnings look like they're just off to the south. But yeah, if we do a timeline there, you can see it'll move through about Memphis by about 3:45 or so Central Time, and it'll move over towards Collierville at about 4:01 p.m. There in Colliersville. And this whole thing will continue off over to the east as we continue off throughout the rest of the afternoon into the evening. So we'll have to watch some of these, especially off to the south. We might see some of these cells out ahead of the main line, and we'll see how that evolves, of course, with tornadoes and all of that. But tornado warnings still in effect for southern portions of Mississippi, right there or just off to the east of the Mississippi River, north of Jackson. And there's actually a pretty ominous-looking line of storms there on radar right there. If you can go to velocity there so we can kind of see what it looks like. Yeah, so tornado warning is in effect until 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Yeah, so that extends all the way off to the south. But yeah, see near Yazoo City over towards Jackson, Mississippi, and then up towards Greenwood where we have those active tornado warnings right now. And on velocity there, looks like we do see a little bit of a signature of possibly a tornado just off to the east of Vicksburg there, right there, where we could see a little bit of a notch or a couplet right there off to the east of Vicksburg, and that is moving off to the north and east there, and that will continue on throughout probably the next few. Or I think it said 4:10 or 4:30. I think it said for the tornado warning there, Central Time. But yeah, so that's just crossing over U.S. Route 61 and north of Interstate 20, and that will continue on north of Edwards, and of course moving off to places like Flora and approaching U.S. Route 49 if the storm, of course, lives that long. But yeah, right there is where we will see that tornado right just off to the north of Interstate 20 and just off to the east of U.S. Route 61, just off to the northwest of Edwards. And this is all moving off to the northeast. So if you are anywhere north of Edwards, then do make sure you do take precautions. Make sure you go to the interior and lowest portions of whatever building you're at or any structure you're in, just in case there's actually a tornado on the ground here. Not confirmed, but radar has indicated possibly a tornado, and right there on velocities where you would see it right there, and that is moving off to the north and the east. So actually, can you scroll up to a little bit to the north to see if we see any? Okay, so most of this looks like it's just straight line winds, but there could possibly be an embedded tornado anywhere from about Silver City off to the south. Let's see, there in Belzoni, just off to the east of US 61 as we continue off to the north. That's where we possibly might see some of those straight line winds, possibly right there, approaching US Route 49 west there near Belzoni and Louise. And this will continue off towards the east. So if you're in 49 east, that's where you also might see possibly that straight line winds as well. But this area is under a tornado warning as well. So do make sure to take proper precautions, of course. and go to the interior portions, or go to the lower and interior portions of whatever structure you're at, or go to a structure with that, of course, just in case there is actually a tornado on the ground. But we'll have to watch for any reports of that. See, can you go up to near Memphis to see what's going on over there on reflectivity? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so there looks like we'll see, yeah, there is that other notch. We're looking at tornado warning right there near Golden Lake, just north of Terrell and north of the city of Memphis. That's moving off to the northeast as well. Tornado warning is in effect until 4:30 Central there for places in Golden Lake over towards Covington and Osceola. Right now, you are under the gun for a tornado or a possible tornado on the ground, but we'll have to watch. We haven't seen anything on correlation or correlation coefficient yet for any type of tornado signature. But right now on velocity, that's what we're seeing some of that there. So we're not really seeing anything in the way of any kind of tornado or signature there. But again, a tornado is possibly on the ground there. And this is in effect until 4:30 again Central Time. So if you are in Osceola over towards Golden Lake or anywhere just to the north of that area between Osceola and Gadsden Lake or Golden Lake, do make sure you go into the interior portion of a building. And for timestamps on there, so you'll get to about Keiser at about 3:44 p.m., over towards Osceola by 3:50 p.m., and over towards Covington by 4:09 p.m. So, and these are all in Central Time as well. So just keep that in mind. And this is all north of Millington as well. So Millington, Atoka, over towards Covington. Don't forget, you guys are under the gun, even though you guys are out of this tornado warning. We just have to watch to see how this evolves as well. But at least on velocity, it looks like there is a signature of a tornado embedded along that squall line there, and it's quickly moving off to the north and east. Because some of these wind values today, too, we were looking, it was actually about 60 or to 70 mile per hour. So these are moving very quickly. This is freeway speed. So it is, as Robert was mentioning earlier, so this is very fast for these thunderstorms. So don't attempt to outrun any tornado you see on the ground. Do not do that. Just hunker down if you are under a tornado warning. Don't try and play with these because these things could be deadly, possibly. So there is another tornado warning there just near Shelby. I don't see much on velocity there, but there is still a tornado warning in effect. So if you are in Shelby over towards Clarksdale, just to the south of Clarksdale, do watch out for this. And tornado warning is in effect until 3:45 p.m. Central there for Shelby. And this will eventually cross over into U.S. Route 49 here, just south of Clarksdale. So we'll have to watch to see how that storm evolves and continues on. Yeah, we're not really seeing much on velocity here. It seems relatively calm here, but again, these storms are still dangerous regardless, and they are moving off to the east. And there's that southern tornado warning there we were looking at closer to Yazoo City and over towards Vicksburg. And this is the one that's looking the most ominous right here. Right there, this little notch you see in the velocity, yeah, right there. That's where we see that tornado. It will be located just here. So again, green is going towards the radar and red's going away from the radar. So wherever we start seeing, wherever they start meeting right there is where, especially close to packed together, is where we could see that tornado possibly on the ground. And that's why the Weather Service there has issued a tornado warning for north near Vicksburg there. But yeah, right now the rotation is just passing over Rawhide right there, moving off to the north and east. So it looks like it'll pass just to the north of Lynchburg and over towards Nevada as we get towards later on in tornado warning. Of course, they are still in the polygon, so you will have to watch out for that. Same for you folks in Brownsville as well, just off to the north where we might see that area of rotation right there in Rawhide to move off to the north and east. So, yeah, so again, take precautions. Go to the interior portions of whatever building you're at. Go to the lowest floor, and again, until the tornado warning does pass. So it'll get to Sartaria as we get to about 3:45 or 3:47 p.m. I should say, over towards Flora by 3:58, and out towards Annandale by about 4:03, and by the time we get to Canton at about 4:11 p.m. So these areas are all under the gun for these severe severe thunderstorm warnings, of course, and these will continue throughout the evening as we see this whole complex move off towards the east, and it actually will affect our area tomorrow as well. So we'll have to watch that as well, but probably not as severe. But we'll certainly have to watch as we progress into the overnight hours for our area. But you can see it's along a whole chain of severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings there. And it looks like, actually, that looks like it might be a new tornado warning right there. Let's see, it looks like just off to near Helena. Okay, tornado warning is in effect till 4:30 p.m. Central there, so that might be a new tornado warning there. Yes, that's just off to the east of US 61, and right there, where the reds and the greens right there meet right here, just off to the south of US 49 is where we see or potentially for that tornado right there. That's where that rotation is right here, just off to the east of Helena right there, and that'll move off to the northeast within the progressing minutes here. So if you are in places like North Tanika right there along US 61, do make sure you go to the interior portions of that building. We want to stress that whenever there's a tornado warning out there, because it can be very dangerous and potentially life-threatening situation, of course, as we continue on throughout here. So this polygon extends just off to the east of Mariana, so we might see as well, just along, it looks like just along the Mississippi River, kind of paralleling 61 kind of, until we get to about North Tanika right there. That's where we have that tornado warning extending until about 4:30 p.m. Central. And again, all these tornadoes are going to move off to the northeast, so we'll have to watch as this progresses throughout the rest of the evening, of course, as we see new thunderstorms forming out along the line and ahead of the line. So we'll have to watch that. But now I'll pass things over to Robert.
Right, thank you, Aaron. I'd like to take us down to that tornado warning just northeast of Jackson. I'm getting a little bit more concerned about this one. Just, scroll down a little bit. This one right here. Could we go to correlation coefficient real quickly? We're seeing something that could indicate, and it is a little bit weaker than it was earlier, but it could be debris. I'm not going to say there is now, because it does look like it's weaker than earlier. So we'll continue to watch for that. But let's go back to velocity, because that will really show the story of what's going on right here. Where this potential tornado could be developing with this warning right here if we go to velocity on that one tornado just northwest of Jackson. It's going to be, right there where you see that area of green right next to red. These winds are really just kind of rotating, and these greens right next to red mean they're going in opposite directions right next to each other. Means they're rotating very fast, and as the storm makes its way to the northeast, going to be 4 is under the gun for that one. Going to be US 49. It's going to be north of Interstate 20, so all of you south of Interstate 20 are probably going to be fine from this storm. That's 4. We'll need to be taking those precautions right now, going underground or inside that lowest level interior room. We do have another area up here just west of Bentonia. It is in that second tornado warning just north. That's another area we're watching for potential tornado on the ground. So all of you in that area need to be taking those precautions. If we could zoom out a little bit to see, I think there's another one north of that as well. This is the kind of day where we just have a lot of tornado warnings. You just have to work through them. We'll get through this together. This is going to be a hard day for us all, those of you particularly on the ground, but we've got to work through this together. It's this kind of situation where you have to pull it together and get through this. We will, and these storms will pass. This tornado warning right here, we have several circulations we're watching southwest of Indianola, west of Luis. We have these areas that we're really concerned about, and it's going to make its way along basically the US 49 west corridor. That's going to be what we're watching right here. Belzoni, west of Eden, west of Greenwood, west of West Belzoni. Those of you in that area are going to be what we're watching for that area, potentially a tornado. Really need to get into that lowest level interior room, away from outside walls and windows. Basically just try and put as much space between that tornado and you as possible. And if we could zoom in just southwest of Belzoni, north of Luis, I think we're starting to see some tightening there with that circulation. I can't tell if it's this one or this one that's prevailing, but it looks like whatever's going on here, it's not going to be a good situation for you if you were in Silver City along US 49 West. So that's the circulation we're watching right there. If we could zoom out a little bit more and basically just see the broader situation here, we do have another tornado warning of this one just close to Helena, West Helena. That's the tornado warning we were watching earlier. And I know that circulation was very tight last time. If we could look at the velocity just quickly again, and yes, that is very still tight there. Helena, West Helena, you're probably going to be fine because it's moving out towards the northeast. But North Tanika, that's going to be where we're concerned about. You need to be underground now. And ultimately, I would say the city of Memphis, you need to start preparing because this is moving towards the northeast. This could fall apart. That's what we want to happen. But if it doesn't, city of Memphis, that is going to be a concern for you. This is a tornado that is potentially on the ground right now. I would like to look at correlation coefficient to see what we're looking at here with this tornado close to West Helena, that is good because it means that we don't have a debris signature. It could be on the ground, but if it is, it's not doing much damage. That is what we want to see, but we're not going to say this is your all clear. No, the tornado still has a strong circulation. This strong thing we call it a mesocyclone basically means this storm is really wrapping up here and really rotating. That's where we're concerned. Definitely not all clear here. We have this tornado warning still in effect. Let's go to the one north of Memphis now. Basically, city of Memphis, you are under the gun on all sides, unfortunately. If we could go to velocity here, so I can see exactly where this area of circulation is. I think it's this right here, northwest of Golden Lake, southwest of Osceola, basically crossing I-55 right now. So if you're on I-55, you're close to this circulation, this tornado, you need to be out of your car in a gas station immediately. Get into that brick building, the one with a more sturdy foundation, sturdy construction. That will keep you safe. A car won't. You need to be outside of that car. Worst case scenario, this is not, we don't want to get to this point, but if you don't have any other options, get out of the car and get into a ditch. It's not something we like to do, not something we recommend, but it's better than being in a car. So if you're in that situation on I-55, you need to do that right now. But a gas station will do. Just go in there right now, go to that bathroom, away from outside walls and windows immediately. They will understand. It's you can go there right now. You're under a tornado warning. The gas station owners will understand. You have to go there right now. If we could go a little bit north just to see if there's anything, I don't think there is any new tornado warnings to our north, but we are continuing to watch these severe thunderstorm warnings as they develop. Just basically southwest of Paducah along our Interstate 55, that is our main concern here. So this is what we're basically looking at for the whole situation here. We've gone through the major tornado warnings that we're seeing. We do have several concerning tornadoes, particularly in Mississippi now. Just now, it's central Mississippi near Jackson, the one in northern Mississippi near Helena, West Helena, and then also in Tennessee north of Memphis. Those are our main concerns. Let's go back to the one near Jackson now, because that one was very concerning earlier, and that's something we're continuing to watch. It's going to be basically just north of I-20. This area right here where you see this notch, this is an example of a bounded weak echo region. It's not a very big one. Usually our bounded weak echo regions are way bigger and you can see them. This notch is basically a very micro example of that kind of thing. That basically means that inflow is coming in here and we have this area that we see the tornado right here. And thank you, yeah, that's basically a magnifying glass showing you these strong velocity signatures we have right here. In this area, these blues and greens, that's all going towards the radar, basically this way. Sorry, I'm doing it wrong. It's this way because the radar is over here, and the reds are going away from the radar, basically this way, and they're all rotating around this one point. So if you are near Bentonia, you need to be underground right now or inside a lowest level interior room along US 49. So that's our main concern there. If we could put back correlation coefficient on, I'm not convinced that there's going to be any debris right here. Maybe something, but I don't really see anything too definitive, so I'm not going to say that. But we do have that notch right there that's very concerning of a potential tornado. And ultimately, we are going to look towards Canton and the I-55 corridor for where this is going to go. The reason this tornado warning is so big is because this tornado they're going at such a fast speed, basically freeway speeds, so you need to take those precautions as soon as that alert is going. You don't have time to sit and wait. You just need to take those precautions immediately. Even if you're in the far east area, like this new tornado warning that just got issued for Pickens, you need to take those precautions immediately. You can't wait for that. So yes, we have this tornado warning that we were talking about for Canton until 4:30 Central Time. This tornado warning now is new. This will be going for Pickens. You're going to be also under this potential tornado for you on the I-55 corridor. If we could go back to velocity to see the structure of this new tornado that we're seeing, I think it's about this current tornado warning. They just extended it towards the east. And it's probably going to be this one right here, just southwest of Yazoo City. So Yazoo City, you need to be underground right now. This is not a good situation for you in Yazoo City, not a good situation for you in Eden. 49 East, US 149, that's all right where we're watching for this tornado potentially coming in, and we're very concerned about this as it's continuing to tighten and present a very bad situation for the people of Yazoo City, Bentonia, Lexington, and Pickens. Anywhere in these red polygons, these tornado warnings, just take cover right now. Don't wait. You don't want to be outside, you don't want to be in a car, you don't want to be on the interstate, you don't want to be on a US highway, you don't want to be anywhere outside right now. So if you can go underground, that's your best bet. Go inside a FEMA grade tornado shelter, that's your best bet. I know there are some tornado shelters around here. If you go on Twitter and go to Craig Cece, he has some tornado shelters that are listed on a map. Most of them are in Alabama, but there are some in Mississippi. So if you can go to one of those right now, that's your best bet. But if you don't have time for that, you really only have a few seconds to react here. So if you are not close to one of those right now, you don't know how to get to one of those within the next 30 seconds or minute or so, don't take that chance, don't take those precautions, or not precautions, excuse me, don't take that risk. Anywhere in that area, just northwest of Jackson, anywhere in those red tornado warnings, need to be taking those precautions immediately. So like I said, if you don't have time to go to a FEMA-grade tornado shelter or an underground area, you really just need to go into a lowest level interior room away from outside walls and windows, putting as much space between that tornado and you going into that room right now. So also I want to say, if you don't have a room like that, but you know your neighbor does, just go there now. Even if it feels kind of awkward, just do it, because it will potentially save your life. These tornadoes are bearing down on you right now, and you don't have the time to wait and meddle around. You have to take those chances immediately. So yes, we have these tornado warnings right here. We'll continue to watch northwest of Jackson. So we have this line that is really strong. It's putting down very strong wind gusts, something we're very concerned about. These, we see basically a constant line of warnings all the way down from the south up towards the north. We do have this one area of tornado circulation, but we're continuing to watch this for an area that could still produce tornadoes at any point. But even if you don't have a tornado, we are watching for what could be damaging wind gusts. So anywhere in these polygons, just take those precautions immediately. Don't wait to do it. Even if you don't have a tornado warning, it's just better to be safe than sorry. Assume it's a tornado warning and go take those precautions immediately. So again, this is the big picture of what we're watching here, the major storms that we're seeing on radar. And that's the major thing we're watching with these storms, is some potential embedded tornadoes and also these damaging wind gusts. So we are continuing to watch this along with the I-55 corridor, these major storms that have been continuing to happen for the last roughly hour or so. So now I'm going to pass things off to Chandler to continue to talk about this threat.
With several embedded tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. Of course, one of the taglines in a severe thunderstorm warning is tornadoes are possible. So basically this whole entire region is just telling you there's a possibility of strong winds and the possibility of a quick spin-up tornado, one that you won't see coming if you're even looking outside of the window, which we do not recommend. We ask that everybody go inside to an interior room in your home. If you're in a mobile home or a car, make sure you go to a more secure location, such as a neighbor's house if you have one, or like Robert's been mentioning, a FEMA shelter if you know of one. But again, go to one of those more secure buildings, or even a public building like a library will be better if you're living in a mobile home. But again, we have this very strong line of storms. It's a little bit bowed, which means that it has this very strong winds that are just pulling it and pulling it closer and closer to the central Mississippi region. So it's going to continue to accelerate across the state of Mississippi, leading to some strong, severe weather throughout the rest of this evening into the nighttime hours and towards midnight. We're going to see a lot of these strong embedded storms within this long line of just wind-making storms. But let's go up towards Memphis. We'll look at this tornado warning right here. Let's just see. Yeah, it's been progressing pretty aggressively as it makes its way towards Memphis. Let's look at the velocity and see if it continues to have that notch. Yeah, the notch has died down a little bit, so we aren't maybe as concerned, but this warning is still up. So even though maybe it's not the most noticeable, it's still, there's some embedded circulation within most of these storms actually. So it is still a dangerous situation. So anybody in the Hughes region, north, Tunica, and even towards Memphis, definitely take shelter. But let's go back to that large scale picture, and we'll just see if there's any other warnings to highlight, maybe up towards the North Memphis region. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning still in effect for the Golden Lake area. Then Osceola, you guys have that tornado warning. Let's look at the velocity for that one as well. Right, so the velocity has died down for that one as well. For the most part, it is just straight line wind event, but there's still a warning up, so that means anybody in this area should be taking shelter, especially Osceola. Let's go closer to the northeast, move a little bit further. Yeah, so going towards Ashport, you guys also need to go ahead and take shelter because this storm is continuing to push through, and even whenever there's maybe not a noticeable couplet, there is still a possibility for spin-ups that are very quick and brief. Also, a potential for straight-line winds that can damage a home just as badly as a tornado. We already have some reports of wind damage that caused tornadoes to fall on top of mobile homes. So we have had those types of situations where people have already had life-changing events occurring all across this squall line. So again, if you're at all in the Osceola, Ashport area, go ahead and take shelter. Let's get a look at the timing of this situation. Again, if you're anywhere near Detroit, Barfield, Ashport, definitely go ahead and take shelter. It's knocking on your doorstep and will be here quite shortly. Taking a broader look, we're going to actually look at the national view. So again, I've been highlighting a couple times already, but we have this warm swath of air across the southeast that the front will continue to feed on. We have been checking in every once in a while, and if you can't tell, that line is slowly progressing. As Aaron pointed out earlier, the cold front, if you want to spot it, it's between the orange and the green. It's pretty much a pretty sharp temperature gradient that's riding along the Mississippi River at the moment, and it's making its way through Memphis, through Jackson, and it'll be on its way towards Alabama shortly. It's feeding on that warm air ahead of it, getting that strength. And on top of that, we have that moisture that also acts as fuel for these storms, increasing the potential energy for them to continue to convect and continue to get stronger. So we'll continue to expect that these storms will progress and stay at this severe level as they make their way through Mississippi, Alabama, and even into our neck of the woods here in the Panhandle and North Florida regions. As for those winds, again, those winds are quite strong in the atmosphere, really a southerly flow associated ahead of that cold front, which is to be expected. It's carrying all that warmth and that moisture that I just pointed out to you guys. So again, a lot of those strong winds, and even they mix down towards the surface, causing for us here ahead of the front to experience 20, 30 mile an hour winds. But then we also have that northwest flow behind the front that we can expect here in Tallahassee throughout the later portions of this week. That will be a little bit cooler, and it'll still be pretty windy and breezy. But yeah, so far, Arkansas, Louisiana, you guys are starting to experience that northwest flow as well. As for the severe weather outlook, we still have that moderate risk in effect for all the state of Mississippi, as well as Alabama and then Tennessee. So it's a pretty significant event. Moderate risk, again, is a 4 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. And then it's still that moderate or that enhanced risk also stretches into most of the portions of Alabama and into Florida as well. So again, it's a pretty severe risk for wind, but even a couple embedded tornadoes. So again, something to keep in mind. We have had a couple confirmed tornadoes already. As for the severe weather potential tomorrow, we have that slight risk throughout the South Georgia and North Florida regions, and another slight risk up towards the Mid-Atlantic and into North Carolina. So that's something to be to look out for tomorrow, and especially tomorrow morning. It's not one of those afternoon events. It's actually more of a morning event, at least for us here in Tallahassee. And actually looking at that timing, we can see this future radar. So that storm is going to progress, and it's going to be through Alabama, mostly through Alabama, by that 2:23 a.m. time. It's going to make its way into the Panhandle, into the Pensacola region by about 2 a.m. And then it's going to make its way towards Tallahassee by that commuter time around 8:50 a.m. So again, if you are driving at all tomorrow morning, maybe go to work a little early or a little late, because anywhere between that 7 to 10 range is going to be pretty rainy and pretty nasty out with those strong winds as well. And then we'll watch that system progress, and it will push. By the time we make it to Thursday evening, it'll be out of our viewing area. And by the time we enter Friday, it's out of the southeast and back into the Atlantic where it should belong. As for the storm reports, we've had over 30 wind reports and at least 2 tornado reports within the last hour, or within the last few hours of this storm lasting, this storm's lifetime, excuse me. So we have over 32 storm reports. This is probably not updated because it continues to, we continue to see more and more reports within every minute almost, because people are taking pictures of these downed trees that are knocking over power lines, downed trees that are crushing mobile homes, and then all the different wind-related events, and even those 2 tornado reports. We had one video coming out of the Louisiana, Arkansas region that was showing a tornado on the ground. So again, these storms are producing strong winds and tornadic threat potential. We'll actually toss things over to Robert, who will continue to show us a little more of the action going on and kind of elaborate on what's actually going on at the current moment.
Right, thank you, Chandler. We are watching what is going to be a developing new tornado warning just west of east of Cape Girardeau, or sorry, excuse me, south. Let me get my directions right. Of Cape Girardeau, we do have this tornado warning right here. It is basically right over Sikeston. So if you are in the city of Sikeston, northwest of West Prairie, east of Dexter, you need to be into that lowest level interior room, away from outside walls and windows. Inside basically as much space from the tornado as you can get right now. Sikeston, you are under the gun. Scott City, Benton, west of Mound City, west of Cairo, need to be into those interior rooms right now. Tornado shelter, if you have them, I know they're really more common in this area of the nation than they are in my homeland of Texas and Louisiana. So if you do have one, that's probably a best bet, go there now. But if you don't, still need to take caution and go into that lowest level interior room. We do have this ongoing tornado warning south of Blytheville, so we are watching this one right here. It seems to be just east of Osceola, where we're watching this area of tornado concern. Again, east of Osceola, just north of, really seems to be an area of circulation we're watching just north of Wilson. Anywhere in this area, you need to be taking those precautions immediately. Respect the polygon anywhere in this area. We're going to go down, and we see that there are still 2 tornado warnings east of Yazoo City, west of Canton, anywhere in that area. And really, I'm very concerned about this one now. I am very concerned about this. Anywhere west of Benton, east of Yazoo City, you need to be into that lowest level interior room right now. This is really wrapping up and tightening. Now, these are just strong winds on both sides of it, but you see where these winds meet right here? That's where we're really concerned about what could be a very strong tornado developing. We've seen this progression of it over the last roughly 2 or 3 hours, but it's really starting to tighten up right here. That's where we're really concerned. So city of Benton, east of Yazoo City, anywhere along that area just west of Midway, you need to be underground or into a lowest level interior room right now. That is a big concern right there with that situation developing right there. This right here as a new scan, I think we just had a new scan come in. This is very concerning. Let me see if I can put on correlation coefficient. Fortunately, it seems there's not a lot of debris being picked up here, so it probably is not on the ground, but it could be at any second, and that is something we're very concerned about with this tornado, as this circulation is really starting to tighten up just west of Benton, a very concerning situation there. We're also watching northwest of Flora, anywhere along this area. Another area of circulation we're watching that could put down a tornado at any point. If you're in these polygons, you need to take your precautions immediately. These storms are screaming at 50, 60 miles per hour. You don't have time to wait this out and see, well, is this going to weaken? Just take your precautions now. It's way better to be wrong and, well, okay, we took precautions. We just had to wait in the bathroom for 15 minutes. That's way better than, we waited in the living room or on the patio to see if this would come and it impacts you. You need to take those precautions down. If you're on a car anywhere along, I believe this is US 49 West, you need to take those precautions immediately. Get off that road into a gas station, away from outside walls and windows. Highway 432, anywhere along between Yazoo City and Bentonia. This is now a confirmed tornado on the ground. This is why I was very concerned about this. It is now confirmed and on the ground east of Yazoo City. This is going to be until 5 p.m. Central Time, and that is actually not the confirmed warning. Let me see if I can figure that out real quickly. Okay, this is not, we don't have it here, but this one is confirmed as east of Yazoo City right here. This is a very tight couplet of circulation northwest of that and south of Eden. This is something we're very concerned about. I believe it is, we're watching right here where you see this notch right here. This is very concerning for where we could have these inflow winds creating a potential, or not a potential, a confirmed tornado on the ground right now. It's for homes in Yazoo counties. Again, you need to take those precautions immediately. Go underground or into a room away from outside walls and windows now. This is until 5 p.m. Central Time. So anyone in this warning, you need to take those precautions immediately. You can't wait this one out. You have to take that. There's another one north of Jackson we're continuing to watch. Could still be a major concern, and anywhere along this line is still a big concern for us. So we're watching this. It's observed, yes. So it's observed. I believe it is, yes, this one just east of Yazoo City. It's in the city of Benton. So if you are in Benton right now, you need to take those precautions. Go away from outside walls and windows. Get inside a sturdy construction building. If you're in a mobile home, that's not a good place to be. That can just be picked up by the tornado, and that is a deadly situation. So anywhere in the city of Benton, you need to go into a sturdy building, go to a gas station, go to a store, anywhere away from an area that's outside, away from outside walls, go inside. Get as much space between this confirmed tornado on the ground, and really just, you're trying to keep yourself, your family, and your pets safe, and your friends. Just really do this as soon as you can. This is a very bad situation that's now starting to develop just northwest of Benton. It's been confirmed by spotters. Thank you, Jonathan. It is west of Midway. This is what we're watching right here. You can see these very high winds on one end going away from the radar, one end going towards the radar, right next to each other. And that's really creating this area of circulation right here that we're very concerned about. So now that it's confirmed, I'm going to look back at correlation coefficient. And I'm not going to try and say there's debris there. It's not really enough to say that there is, but we could see some soon. It doesn't matter, though. This is on the ground. So I'm not going to say that this is a situation you need to take lightly or anything, because really looking at this, this is, like I said, a little bit of an example of a bounded weak echo region. Basically an area where you see lower reflectivity values, lower, basically this is the velocity that we're looking at here. Sorry, this is the velocity, excuse me. This is basically where those inflow winds are going into the storm and feeding this area of circulation. So this is basically a classic situation they're looking for a tornado developing, and it's going to be right west of Midway, north of Benton. This is where this confirmed tornado is on the ground, and you need to take those precautions if you're in the city of Midway. Basically, now is your time. This is it. This is your warning. Go now. Go to that interior room or that basement or something away from outside walls and windows, because you really need to take those precautions now. This is a very strong area of circulation there that we're very concerned about. It's going to be in homes in Yazoo counties, particularly in Yazoo County, where we're just north of Benton, and it's going to be towards the city of Midway that we're very concerned about the city of Midway right now. If you know anyone in the city of Midway, you need to call them, because this is a very dangerous situation with a confirmed tornado on the ground making its way north of Yazoo City there that we're going to go. So I'm actually going to go to the wall over so we can look a little bit more at this, because this is going to be a situation that we can look at on the wall. So just take me over to the radar there, so I can point out some of this a little bit better than I can on the monitor. So switch me over to the radar real quickly, because we do have this confirmed tornado on the ground. Right here, yes. Can we zoom in right just north of Durant? This situation, or yeah, they confirmed the entire thing, yep. So yeah, go a little bit south of there, and a little more south, just a little bit more, right there, yeah, right here. This is what we're looking at. This area of circulation right here is our major concern for the tornado warning. That is really, if you could really zoom in on that. Yeah, we can look at the velocity, but also zoom in so I can see the roads, so I can just start naming out places where people need to take cover. Just go a little bit north, yeah, right there. Pierce Crossroad, you need to be underground right now or inside a room that is away from outside walls and windows on the lowest level of your house. Mississippi 14, Mississippi 432, Evans, Fordyke, Benton need to be underground right now or inside that lowest level interior room. If you could zoom in just a little bit more on this circulation just southwest of Pierce Crossroad. If we can get any more road names, I just want to give as much information to people as possible. City of Benton, go a little bit north of the city of Benton, because Benton, you are under a major concern right now, but it's really just southwest of Pierce Crossroad, where these greens and this green and red meets just west of Pierce Crossroad. If you could zoom in a little bit more, if that's possible, go a little bit west, just a little bit west right there, and zoom in a little more. Yeah, so we don't really have any more place names or so far zoomed in, but Pierce Crossroad, this is going to make its way to you within the next minute or two. You don't have any time to take those precautions. You need to go into that lowest level interior room right now. This is a major situation for the city of Pierce Crossroad, a major situation for all of you. Sorry? Yeah, Midway is where it's going right now. West of Mississippi 14 this is a major situation for all of you. You need to take those precautions immediately. You have to take this tornado seriously. Just because, this, well, actually, there's really no way, no caveats here. This is a tornado on the ground. It is confirmed.
Zoom out and go to the south. I'm starting to get concerned with the south.
Yeah, if we could just pass it off to Jonathan because he's
I don't have a mic.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So if we could just go to the south here, we are watching this storm. In this tornado warning, we have Flora, Canton. We're watching you, Mississippi 22, US 49. We're seeing this area of circulation right here starting to tighten up. This is going to be until 4:30 Central Time that we're continuing to watch. This is Interstate 55. You know anyone along there? This is also the US 49. This is Mississippi 22, Mississippi 463. Trying to give you as much information as possible. This is no, I'm not going to say that. This is not a confirmed tornado. The one to the north is confirmed. This is fortunately not confirmed at the moment, but we are continuing to watch this situation as it could impact those of you in Flora, those of you in Stokes, those of you in Livingston, Vernon, Highway 49. That's where we need to be taking those precautions right now and going away from outside walls and windows. So I'm going to pass things off now to Jonathan to talk more about what he's seeing here with this tornado as well.
I'm on mic 6, just to clarify, but so as we are looking, did not mean to do that, throughout the day today, with the type of convective system we're having, we're going to have to look for where we start to get
All good.
this little bit of outflow on the rear flank downdraft, where we're having a little bit of a C shape, and that's where we're going to have to watch for potential tornadoes developing. And as you look here, just on the border of these two tornado warnings, we're starting to get this hook right to the east of Batonia. And where that is we're going to watch for a developing couplet right there. That tornado that Robert was just talking about, sort of same thing happened there. We had this C shape develop, and then it sort of wrapped up and spun up into a tornado right there. So currently monitoring the lines of these two tornado warnings. May get a new warning in a little bit as a result of that. But as we zoom out at the bigger picture, we do have a confirmed tornado warning still on the ground heading towards Midway. The radar velocity data is starting to get a little bit discombobulated right now. But one thing that I do want to take a minute to talk about is these yellow colors. So we normally do not see yellow or green if it's in the opposite direction on the velocity data on a day like today, normally because we're used to these reds and we're greens. However, we're starting to see yellow and blue today, and that's because of the wind advisory we have in effect, especially in parts to the east of the squall line in places like Columbus, where there's not much convection going on right now. We are going to have to monitor these little pop-ups and see if they can break through the cap in the middle levels of the atmosphere. If and when they break the cap, that is when we could start to see more of these discrete supercellular type storms develop, and those have the potential to spin. But we have what is called a southerly inflow jet, and right now the winds are just roaring up from the Gulf of Mexico up towards the state of Tennessee, with wind advisories and high wind warnings in effect across the eastern portions of Mississippi and western portions of Alabama. And there we already have some reports of non-thunderstorm wind damage. I saw a picture of a gas station awning that collapsed in center Alabama on social media. So we're starting to see a lot of winds, maybe some power outages. I know some of our viewers in Tallahassee lacked power earlier today because of these wind gusts. But that's what's causing this dangerous situation where the storms are going to spin up and spin down really quickly, but when we start to notice that C shape, that's when we have to get concerned. And we're still sort of looking just to the northwest of Canton, where we have this C shape developing right here, starting to get a C, starting to see these colors mix, but once they really start turning, once we really start turning, that's when we're going to have to get concerned. But going back to the wall with Aaron, he's going to take a closer look at this cell.
That's right. You have the cell off to Mississippi right there, as Jonathan was mentioning. That C shape there is what we'll have to watch out for, of course. But aside from that, we have a whole swath of tornado warnings throughout the day across Mississippi, Tennessee, all the way down to Louisiana, as we have that severe threat ongoing right now. Tornado watches extending pretty much from the Gulf Coast up to the Midwest, as we see that line moving off to the east. But we had reports around Memphis and down near Jackson, places like Vicksburg, where they had tornado warnings earlier. And I think we actually do have a tornado warning just off to the north there of Memphis still. Yeah, right there. And then we have another one near Paducah there, near Kentucky, right there. So yeah, this will all be continuing off to or towards the north and the east as we continue on throughout the rest of the evening, as we'll have to monitor this line as it moves off, and of course we'll see these new storms developing along that line and out ahead of it, especially the further off to the south you are. But yeah, we still have ongoing tornado warnings from Mississippi over towards Tennessee that we'll have to watch out for in the coming days. But nationally, we're talking about this huge cold front that's coming through right now. That's what's generating these thunderstorms across the deep south this afternoon. So over from about New Orleans up to about Chicago, that is where the cold front is at, and that's what's producing those thunderstorms out ahead of that line. Behind that, we have that cooler air that will be advecting in from the plains. You can see it's 42 currently in Kansas City, and then down to near 60 in Dallas. But of course, out ahead of these storms, where we have that moisture and that warm air in place, we do have those warmer temperatures. So Tallahassee, tomorrow we'll have to watch that as we see this line progress off. It looks like we're not going to see as much of a severe weather threat as we did today over portions of the south and east, but looks like we'll probably see those continue. But it looks like they'll probably weaken and probably be more squall line damaging winds, more of a threat here across the panhandle. And here are those dew points nosing in in front of that cold front. More of that humid weather continuing until, of course, we do have that cold front moving in. But for our wind speed and direction, we do have that cold front right along the Mississippi River pretty much. So out ahead of it, we had those strong winds today. If you're walking outside today, it was a pretty windy day across the Big Bend. But of course, once we have that cold front pushing through, we'll have those winds shifting in out of the north and west. So for tonight, for the rest of the day, we will have that moderate risk over much of Mississippi over towards western portions of Alabama. And of course, we have that moderate risk as well, extending all the way into the panhandle as well. And of course, tomorrow, we have that severe weather threat coming in over the Big Bend with that slight risk. So here is a future radar across much of Florida. That we'll see that line continuing on towards our area. But of course, we'll have to watch this out. But make sure you stay tuned for our FSU weather show. That will happen in about 30 minutes or so. I'll see you then.